Like, I grew up on Ocean Parkway, went to PF 130, and now is in Jersey. And
Small world.
I know, it's
Totally
crazy.
a small world.
Yeah.
I was, oh, where I was, what country I was in. And Mr. Albert.
Yeah.
Is audio very good? And folks who are joining us on Zoom hear me? If anyone's audio, you can say a little bit. Okay. Let me get.
Yeah. It's on.
Okay, cool. Thank you all so much for being here. We are gonna switch the order of operations a little bit here, just so that we can get the meeting started with some non-voting items before we have quorum. Before we do, I would love if the interpreters could introduce yourselves and just share the language information, please. Maybe we could start with Amanda.
Hi, this is the Mandarin interpreter Tiffany. I will be do the announcement. 大家好，该视频会议会提供中文、普通话同声传译服务专线，请致电传译专线号码347-966-4114，再输入 ID 认证号码680-240-546，井号收听。如果你收听同声传译的时候呢，同时收看视频会议，请确保你的电脑处于静音状态。谢谢。This is the Mandarin interpreter. The announcement is completed.
Thank you so much. Could we hear Bangla next, please?
The following announcement will be in Bangla. শুভ সন্ধ্যা বাংলাভাষী যারা আজকের এই অনুষ্ঠান বাংলায় শুনতে চান অনুগ্রহ করে ডায়াল করবেন 347-966-4114। আমি আবারও বলছি 347-966-4114। এরপর আইডি চাওয়া মাত্র ডায়াল করবেন 193-373-22 এবং হ্যাশ সাইন। আমি আবারও বলছি আইডি চাওয়া মাত্র ডায়াল করবেন 193-373-22 এবং হ্যাশ সাইন। ধন্যবাদ। The Bengali announcement is over. Thank you.
Thank you. And Spanish, please.
Sí, muy buenas noches para todos y bienvenidos. Para escuchar la reunión en español, llamar al número 347-966-4114. 347-966-4114, seguido del código 576-309-313, signo numeral. Por favor, mantener silenciados los micrófonos en sus dispositivos para evitar ruidos de fondo durante la interpretación. Gracias. Thank you. Announcement has been completed.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all the interpreters for being here tonight. We are going to begin with the calendar meeting. So I will call the calendar meeting to order at 6:37 p.m. let's see, Angelica, would you mind calling the roll?
Sure. Okay,
Arizona, from Zoom.
Anna Maria Aguilar,
Whatever.
Angelica Cesario, present. Jonathan Davis,
Present.
Ken Peavy,
Present.
Angelica Jagannandan,
Not working.
Kathy McKenzie,
Present.
Bettina Rogers, Kim Wanless,
Present.
Kara's Weldon Mueller,
Present.
Ching Sha Zhu,
Just
Oh,
one.
yeah, fucking, yeah, and Anna Maria.
And Anna Maria is present.
perfect.
Welcome.
Kara can now officially be present.
Great. Oh, wow, so we do have quorum.
Yeah.
Great job, everybody. All right, so should we do go ahead with the annual meeting? Hopefully we're supposed to. Okay, all right, so, sorry, we're gonna, since we now have quorum, which is amazing, we will start with the annual meeting as we had planned. So annual meeting is what is now in session. We have heard from the interpreters, and so we will go straight into the election of officers. It will have a little bit more to say just to welcome everybody to the year once we get into the calendar meeting, but we have to get through all the procedural stuff for our annual meeting, and then we'll be able to move into it. So, welcome to our new member, Catherine McKenzie. The annual meeting is the trickiest way to start a new term because there's just so much procedure. It is what it is. So the council's bylaws require that officers be elected by roll call vote at the annual meeting. To be elected, a candidate must have at least 7 votes. Officers remain in their position until their successors have been elected. The first order of business is to elect a chair pro tem to chair the election meeting until the president has been elected. And then we will vote on other offices. After chair pro tem, we'll vote on the office of president, and then the other offices. If no candidate receives at least 7 votes for a position, we'll vote on whether to do a second or third round of vote. So I would like to nominate Jonathan Davis to serve as chair pro tem. Okay, are there any other nominations?
You sure?
Okay. Nominations for chair pro tem are now closed, and we will proceed to a roll call vote for chair pro. So just vote, since we only have one candidate, just vote yes, no, or abstain.
Anna Maria Aguilar,
Yes.
Angelica Cesario, yes. Jonathan Davis,
Yes.
Ken Peavy,
Yes.
Catherine McKenzie,
Yes.
Bettina Rogers,
Yes.
Kim Wanless,
Yeah.
Kara's Weldon Mueller,
Yes.
Ching Sha Zhu,
Yes.
Thank you all.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I am truly honored.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So as the chair pro tem, we will move forward with officer elections, beginning with the president. So to elect officers, we will vote on each position before moving to the next, so that any candidate not elected to an office can run for others. I will take nominations. Members can nominate themselves. If a member is nominated by another member, I will confirm that they accept the nomination. Each nominee will be allowed to make a speech of up to 2 minutes if they wish. So you do not need to do it, but you can. Okay. I would expect that you've come with a prepared written statement, but if you don't have that, that's okay. I'm just kidding. If a member is not present, but has submitted his or her or their nomination in writing to the administrative assistant or another member, they will be treated the same as any member who is present, including having a 2-minute statement read aloud by someone else. Following the candidate's presentation, we will conduct a roll call vote. All positions must be voted on, even if there is only one candidate. Where there are 2 or more candidates, each member must make a choice and vote for one or another. Members may abstain from voting. If no candidate receives at least 7 votes, we will move on to the next position and return to undecided positions at the end. If a position remains unfilled over 2 or more rounds of voting, the incumbent will continue in the position. New elections for all unfilled positions must be put on the agenda of the following month's calendar meeting. Is the procedure clear to all members?
Yes.
Jingsha? So we will move to the election of the president. I'm excited. Who else is excited? Okay. So first we will elect the council president. Katina Rogers has been nominated. Do you accept this nomination?
Accept the nomination. I would welcome any others to self-nominate.
Are there any other nominations for the office of president? Okay, there are no other nominations unless Kara, I was missing a nomination there. No, okay, just making sure. So since we have one candidate, Katina, you have a chance to make a statement if you would like.
I will just say, I wasn't gonna say anything, but it's a big responsibility and really an honor and a privilege to be in this role. And so while I do complain about about some of the work that goes into it, and we've been joking around about it, I do understand the importance and hold that with a lot of I hold the role with a lot of respect for the community, for the schools that we serve, and I'm honored that you nominated me again, and we'll do my best to be there.
And move to vote.
Second?
So we'll do a roll call vote.
Anna Maria Aguilar.
Yes.
Angelica Cesario. Yes. Jonathan Davis.
Yes, yeah.
Ken Eby.
Yes.
Catherine McKenzie. Yes. Katina Rogers.
Yes.
Kim Wanless.
Yes.
Jing Zhu.
Yes.
Paris Whirling Mower.
Yes.
Hey, Katina has been re-elected for a second term as president.
I appreciate the confidence, and I look forward to training my replacement.
Speaking of,
Speaking of which,
maybe.
yeah. Do you want
So it's up to you. Would you like for me to keep rolling?
Yeah, that sounds great.
You know, it does say the president-elect may take over the meeting, but I will be kind and continue. So I don't know if it gets to my position, if you want to take that, okay. So now we are going to move into nomination for the vice president one. The vice president one is a position where there are 2 vice president positions. They work collaboratively, but the vice president one will serve as the first person to take over for Katina when she is unable to take on any of the presidential roles for any particular reason. They will be the next person to get a phone call from Raphael when Katina is unable to take a call. It's the role that I previously held, but I would like to nominate Angelica Cesario to take over as vice president one.
I second that.
Any other nominations for vice president one? Okay, so nominations are closed. Angelica, would you like to make a statement?
I think similar to Katina, I'm honored to serve on this board and serve this community. And I really appreciate everyone's trust in me.
Please. Stop.
Hey, Sam, you're unmuted. But we love you.
And I'm looking forward to working alongside Katina under her leadership. That's it.
So I moved to do a roll call vote. Somebody else want to do the roll call for this one?
I can do it. Okay. So officially you have to say, we'll do a roll call vote for the position of VP1 and Anna Aguilera. Aguilera.
Yes. Yes.
Angelica Cesario,
Yeah.
Jonathan David,
Yes.
Ken Eby.
Yes.
And Catherine McKenzie.
Yes.
And welcome. Thank you. Katina Rogers.
Yes.
Kim Wanless, yes. Ding Sha Shu. Yes. Yes. And Kara Moeller.
Yes.
Congratulations, you have been elected. Thank you. Really. Thank you.
All right, so we will move on to the election of the second vice president. Jonathan Davis has been nominated to step into this role, and Angelica will be working closely with him. But that's also, one of the goals that I have as we step into our second year working together as a council is to, do some cross training and build up some knowledge across people so that it's not the same folks doing the same work all the time, so that others can step into leadership when they feel good and ready to. So thank you, Jonathan, for do you accept the nomination?
I accept.
Thank you for being willing to accept the nomination. And we will do a roll call vote for the position of VP.
Unless there's anybody else that would like to be vice president too.
All right. Anna Maria Aguilar, yes. Angelica Cesario, yes. Jonathan David.
Yes.
Ken Eby.
Yes.
Catherine McKenzie. Yes. Katina Rogers.
Yes.
Kim Wanless.
Yes.
Jing Shantu.
Yes.
Kara Swellen-Moeller.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I had a prepared statement.
And
It's okay. I spent like 5 hours working on it, but.
I'm so sorry. This is why I shouldn't run there.
I'm just excited what to do. Yeah. And I'm excited for Angelica to take over the VP1 and to learn from her and Katina. We got a great team, yeah. So, just giving you a hard time. That is my role, is to give people a hard time. Right, Shanice?
No.
Yeah. You want me to take over?
Sure.
Okay. No, not at all. So we're gonna move on to the position of secretary. There has been a nomination for Kara Zwirling-Moeller to the secretary. Kara, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I do.
Is there anybody else that would like to nominate another person or self-nominate for the position of secretary?
But just a procedural comment. Wasn't she in the role before?
Yeah,
She was. Yeah.
So.
We still vote for it anyway.
Yeah, still have to vote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Though if we don't fill the role, the incumbent stays in the role, so we technically could
But I thought it
not.
was 2 years.
Everything is a 1 year.
Oh,
Everything's a 1 year. So nominations are closed. Kara, is there anything that you would like to share or say about being secretary?
No, I'm just happy to keep on keeping on.
Awesome. Amazing. So we will move to a roll call vote for Kara to continue on as secretary.
I think we do need a motion and a second because I need to be able to put who motions in seconds.
Yeah, I was doing that before, but it's not actually in the.
Oh, it's not in there? Okay, then I'll delete it.
Because I felt like it.
Part of my
sounded
template.
better.
Okay.
But if it's part of the, I motion. Anna seconds it.
Thank you.
Yeah. See, this is why Kara's the perfect secretary.
So we'll do our roll call. Anna Maria Aguilar. Yes. Angelica Cesario, yes. Jonathan David.
Yes.
Ken Eby.
Yes.
Catherine McKenzie,
Yes.
Bettina Rogers,
Yes.
Kim Wanless,
Yes.
Ching Sha-Zhu,
Yes.
Kara Swirling Moeller,
Yes.
Congratulations, you are continuing on as secretary. So we now move to the treasurer position. We have a nomination for Catherine McKenzie to take over as treasurer. Kat, do you accept the nomination?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to nominate themselves or somebody else for the position of treasurer? Okay. I heard a ding, but I don't think that's anything. I'm gonna close nominations. Kat, is there any statement you wanted to make about taking on the role of treasurer? Yeah,
Just very excited to continuing handling the money.
perfect. Love it. So I will move to vote for Kat as the future treasurer. Catherine McKenzie, no? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Roll call.
I've got to look, you're moving to nominate, fair enough.
Oh,
The nominate.
Yeah.
No.
no, moving to vote. We already nominated her. She was the only nominee. And now we're moving to vote. Right?
But we don't need to move for the roll call. I think that's what I got to do.
Yeah.
So,
That's right, but then Kara said we should do it because it's in her template.
Okay.
So we're just doing it
okay.
so that it fits Kara's template.
I'll just let me just say this. Anna Maria Aguilar,
Yes.
Angelica Cesario, yes. Jonathan Davis,
Yes.
Ken Eby,
Yes.
Catherine McKenzie, Bettina Rogers, Kim Wanless,
Yes.
Ching Sha-Zhu,
Yes.
Karen Swirling Moeller.
Yes.
Congratulations, Kat. And our last but not least, very important, critical position of parliamentarian is up, and we have a nomination for Anna Maria Aguilar. Anna? Anna accepts, thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to nominate themselves or somebody else for the position of parliamentarian? Nominations are closed. Anna, would you like to say anything?
No, just really excited to be part of the team. It's a new team. I'm happy to be learning with you all and just, ready to enforce the rules and dig in. So,
Control the meeting.
so yes, I'm ready. Except,
Awesome.
thank you.
So I move to the roll call, to vote for the roll call.
Second.
Alright.
Okay. Anna Maria Aguilar, yes. Angelica Cesario, yes. Jonathan Davis.
Yes.
Ken Eby,
Yes.
Catherine McKenzie, yes. Bettina Rogers, yes. Kim Wanless,
Yes.
Ching Sha-Zhu,
Yes.
Kara Swirling Moeller.
Yes.
And congratulations.
I'm sure you have a stopwatch with an alarm. With an
Yeah,
alarm.
and the gavel, yeah, yeah. All of our positions are filled, so, once the elections have been completed, the annual meeting is adjourned. I don't know if you would like to adjourn this.
Sure, the meeting is adjourned at 6:56 p.m.
Okay.
Thank you all. That was really smooth. Thank you so much to everybody who was willing to take on the role. We really, obviously, we could not do this without everybody pitching in and taking on things that, that suit their skill set. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
And Shanice, it said there's a note here to send the new officers the CEC info email and to the face liaison. Is that something that you do or you do?
Yes,
You do that. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, amazing, moving right along. So I will call the calendar meeting to order now at 6:57 p.m. I guess we got to do another roll call.
Lots of roll calls.
Roll call.
There you go. Okay, Anna Maria Aguilar,
Present.
Angelica Cesario, present. Jonathan Davis,
Present.
Ken Eby,
Present.
Catherine McKenzie, present. Bettina Rogers, present. Kim Wanless,
Present.
Ching Sha-Zhu,
Present.
Paris Whirling Moeller.
Present.
Thank you. So we have quorum. And I will just say a couple of words to open us up. I'm so excited to be starting a new year with you all. I just keep thinking about how it felt to be starting last July when we also had flash flood warnings and bad weather. And most of the folks in the room were brand new. And everybody came in with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of willingness to put in the work. And there was just a lot to do to get our feet under us as a group and to see how we all work together. And now it is such a pleasure to come back together to have both returning faces and new faces. I'm so happy to welcome Catherine McKenzie to joining our group. She's the new borough president. Thank you for welcome, Pat. Jumping straight into the role of treasurer. Ana Maria Aguilar, who joined us midway through last year, and so delighted that you're stepping into a leadership role this year. Thank you for keeping your we do still have one more vacancy for a borough president's appointee. If someone wants to go through the truly marathon process of what that looked like. But we would love to fill that seat. We also have never filled the vacancy for a parent of a child in the D75 program in the district. So I'm not sure who all is joining us online, but if that might be you, or if you know someone who might be interested, we would really like to build our relationships with our D75 programs that are in our district this month. We also still have 2 student vacancies. So these student positions are open to high school seniors. We know high school seniors have a lot going on, but for anybody who might be interested in governance or policy or school leadership, what an amazing opportunity to get to see how some of this works behind the scenes and to get to connect with elected officials along the way. Very excited about all of those things. Angelica Jadanandan sends her regrets. She's got a really sick kid at home and is going to be joining us online, but can't be here after all. Our face liaison, Diana Perez Miller, is also not able to be here tonight because she's defending her dissertation degree.
Oh, nice.
So
Doctor.
I know, so wishing her all the best this evening. So that's all. Tonight's meeting is going to be quite procedural in nature. We're going to be laying the foundation for the year ahead. We'll be hearing from Superintendent Alvarez with this year's Contracts for Excellence presentation. More about that in just a moment. And then during our business meeting later on, we're going to be voting on some of the frameworks that we'll be using all year. We'll be voting on a draft budget, a calendar. We're going to be talking about goals for the year and kind of reminding ourselves some of the work in progress that we left at the end of the school year. So that's it. Really looking forward to jumping in with you all, and I will turn things over to Superintendent Alvarez. I'll take my seat. Yeah. Fine.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me in the? Yeah, all right. So obviously I'm going to be reading a few things, but there are some things that I've actually added to tailor to our district. So as we go through the presentation, you'll be able to follow along with me, but also a little bit more details than you will actually see that reflect District 15. So obviously you all know I'm Superintendent Alvarez. I want to thank everyone for allowing me the time of your schedule to kind of engage with you on these important items. This evening, I'm going to be joined by our budget, our senior grants support expert, Linda Perez, who's online. Linda, if you could just say hello to everyone.
Good evening, everyone. This is Linda Perez.
She supports our schools with grants-related matters for District 15. Today, we will share our plan for state contracts for excellence funding, also known as C4E, Contracts for Excellence, and our proposed class size reduction plan, a newer part of the Contracts for Excellence process. I will review each topic and then provide the process for public comment for each. I'm also gonna slow down because I keep remembering that I have translators and I speak very fast. Again, I want to thank you for allowing us the time on your agenda today. Let us dive right into the presentation. So if we can go to, we can stay on the first slide. Oh, there you go. All right. Today we'll discuss two topics for the upcoming 26-27 school year. I will provide an overview of the funding, share dollar amounts allocated to the Department of Education, and how the funding will be allocated to schools, and impose restrictions of how some funds are spent. At the end of each topic, we will share how you can provide comments on what I presented. The two topics that we're going to discuss are state contracts for excellence and class size. The state contract for excellence portion of the presentation is being recorded, and any feedback, public comments related to contracts for excellence will be submitted on your behalf. You may also share feedback, public comment on information shared in this presentation by using the designated email address noted after each topic we will cover. I will point out the designated email address at the conclusion of each topic. Our New York City Public Schools team will be taking public comments received into consideration in the coming weeks in alignment with the public process. So now we go to slide 2. The first topic being presented today is contracts for excellence, also commonly referred to as C4E. First, let me provide some background on the contract for excellence for those of you who aren't familiar with it. Contracts for excellence legislation was established as part of the 2007-2008 enacted state budget under foundation aid and requires that a portion of foundation aid be used for specific restricted purposes. Contracts for excellence requires that funding be allocated toward specific programs that raise the achievement of the students with the greatest educational need, including but not limited to those students with limited English proficiency, students in poverty, and students with disabilities. Before I continue, I know that the presentation has been translated already. Tinsha, do you have it in Chinese? Yeah. And can you post them on the can you link them on the in the chat as well?
I don't have it. I think I've got it.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
Okay, thank you.
it.
So you have it already.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I always want to make sure you have it before everybody does. We are required by state law to annually develop through a public process a citywide contract for excellence and community school district contract for excellence. The public process is how parents, teachers, and other school community members and interested parties provide input about the citywide and community school districts C4Es and about the allocation for C4E funding in their schools. Our public process includes this meeting, as well as the other meetings that superintendents will be conducting across the city with their respective CECs and 5 borough hearings that will also be happening during this period of time. Although the Contracts for Excellence process is not new, we have submitted a C4E plan since 2007-2008, as you all know. Under recent changes to state law, the timeline for the public process, including the district C4E presentations, has changed. We are now required to start the process no later than 30 days after the enactment of a state budget. And we are also required to provide notice of the public process 15 days prior to the first public hearing. State law requires that community school district contracts for excellence be presented by superintendents at CEC meetings to enable public comment on those C4E plans. To that end, we'll be recording all comments made at this meeting. This important process will allow families and community members an opportunity to provide input about how their schools are funded. It is an essential element in the Contract for Excellence plan that New York City Public Schools submits to the state, which the state must approve in order for New York City Public Schools to receive their Contract for Excellence funding. So the Contract for Excellence funding. Funding must be spent only within the following initiatives. For illustration, examples of programs by initiative subject to SED, State Education Department approval, are included below. Yeah, that's right there. Okay. Additional instructional time. For example, time on task. Examples of that are extended school day or year initiatives. Something like that might be an after-school program that's being utilized at the school for additional support academically. A year-long initiative where there might be some residency that's happening throughout the particular year. Those are ways that the time on task are allocated. Model programs for multilingual learners. Examples of that are bilingual resource materials in libraries, dual language programs, transitional bilingual education programs, language programs that might be added at schools to provide additional support. Those are ways that that funding can be utilized. Full day pre-kindergarten and kindergarten. Examples are adding classes, additional staff, and or costs related to implementing full day pre-kindergarten or 4K. That's additional allocated funding that's separate from a school's budget that is utilized if a school has a pre-K or a 3K program, or 4K or a 3K program. Class size reduction. Examples of that are hiring and placing additional teachers in a classroom to reduce the student-teacher ratio. So currently under the new law, any school that's getting class size funding can only allocate those teachers to classrooms that won't have beyond the class size reduction in size, right? Yes, so if you receive this year, 4 schools received, and I'll talk about that later. Let's say you receive money for class size and you're putting money in, you'll see in the budget line, it'll say class size. That is allocated to pay for a teacher that's going to take over a class that can't pass that 20 or 23 or 25 ratio, which I'll talk about in a little while what those numbers are. That money is being earmarked for that, and so it's being monitored in alignment to what's in ATS, which is the system where students are registered in, to identify how many students are in that roster or registered role. Right? Middle school, thank you for that. Teacher and principal quality initiatives. These are the creation of non-cash incentive programs to encourage high-quality teachers to teach in high-needs areas. So, for example, and this is not really in our district, but we do have 3 schools in our district who are providing SKIZ, which is special ed 3K, pre-K classes. Those teachers are allowed to be hired through what's called an early hiring process, and they can get a stipend if they commit to the position at a school in our district for that particular school, for that particular grade that is considered a special initiative. Money can go towards that, which is what we're saying here. Middle high school restructuring. Examples of that are expanding participation in advanced placement programs. So a lot of our middle schools have been offering a lot of the algebra classes, the life sciences. We had one school who offered foreign language. 51 recently offered foreign language to 8th grade students that are actually college credits. 6 students participated in that pilot program. 4 of the 6 students passed with level 3s or higher. And 1 student got a perfect 5, which means that kid is already college ready as it relates to language. So that kid, when they get to college, is already going to have their language credits already received in middle school. Additionally, the SED commissioner may authorize districts to implement experimental programs. Such authorization must be granted in advance of implementation, and school districts would know what those are. More information about eligible uses and requirements may be found at New York State Education's website. I'm not going to read the website, but it is on there. You can see that. You can click on that link as well. Contracts for excellence funding can only be used for specific purposes established by the state education department. These include increasing instructional time, supporting multilingual learners, expanding pre-K and kindergarten, reducing class size, strengthening teacher and principal quality, restructuring middle and high schools, and implementing approved innovative programs. While schools have flexibility within these categories, each dollar must align to one of these allowable uses. Ultimately, these investments are intended to strengthen instruction, improve student outcomes, and create more equitable learning opportunities across the district. In this district, every principal sits with the budget director to review their budgets. In this district, the superintendent or one of the deputy superintendents sat in on every single budget meeting to ensure that their budget aligned to their CEP goals and priorities. And we set forth in approving those with our schools. Right now, schools have submitted their draft CEPs, and my team is actually reviewing them with a date of giving feedback by July 31st, which is this Thursday. On slide 4, each school year, New York State Education Department sets New York City Public Schools contracts for excellence amount based on the annual increase in foundational aid in excess of 3%. In fiscal year 2027, the amount of funding we must designate towards contracts for excellence is increasing by $269 million, bringing the total to $1.358 billion. It's important to note that 45 million of the 269 million increase is not new funding. It's already allocated to schools as foundation aid for class size reduction. It will be phased into contract for excellence in 2027 and will continue to be used towards class size reduction. So whatever money was used in a particular year is being used in the following year to maintain what was already previously provided in the previous year. Correct. The new contracts for excellence funding, $224 million, will be used to support schools that require additional resources to meet the state's class size reduction mandate. There is also additional tax levy funding being allocated for this purpose as well. Now, for the breakdown of the contracts for excellence funding, we categorize contracts for excellence allocations as discretionary and targeted. Discretionary means that schools may use contracts for excellence funding in any eligible way that best meets the needs of their students by school. Targeted means that contracts for excellence is being used to support a specific program, and schools must use contracts for excellence funding in support of that specific program, such as a dual language program, right? Of the $1.358 billion, 487 million of those dollars of it will be allocated as discretionary contracts for excellence, and 871 million will be allocated as targeted. The 871 million of targeted programs now includes the following: 464 million towards the state's class size reduction mandate. That's to help meet the mandate for the hiring of additional teachers and resources that are needed to be able to sustain these programs, including pensions and all. 183 million of fair student funding to be used towards teacher salaries, which is increase in teacher salaries that happens year after year based on UFT contractual commitments as well as CSA contractual commitments. 91 million restricted to teacher salaries. 87 million for integrated co-teaching classrooms, ICT classrooms. 30 million for academic summer programming. 9 million for full day pre-K, and 7 million for autism spectrum disorder classrooms. So let's take a closer look at the district-wide proposed allocation. Combined discretionary funding makes up 36.03% of the proposed allocation. Targeted allocation makes up 64.16%, with the greatest share of that being attributed to the class size reduction mandate at 34.26% in this district. Fair student funding, ICT or integrated co-teaching classrooms, summer programming, fully day pre-K, that includes 3K and pre-K, and autism spectrum disorder classroom make up 29.95% combined for this district.
Just for point of clarification.
Yes.
Are you able to just talk about how the aggregate amounts of money are then divvied up across the schools?
That's gonna be a very long, arduous, complicated
Sorry.
response because no, that's okay. I can get some of that information for you, but each school has different programming, right? So for example, some of our schools like PS 32 have a NEST program, right? PS 24 has a Horizon program. 428 middle school has a now Horizon program. 442 has a NEST program. So each school is going to be divvied up differently based on the services and programming that is at each individual school. I'm also giving you preliminary because as of October 31st is when the register takes on, because right now all these things are projected amounts. So schools have been allocated projected money, not necessarily going to be the specific. So for me to give you a number, it's like a moving target. Because I'm not going to have a specific number for each, but I can get to a generalization of what that looks like for schools within certain neighborhoods. And at your SLTs, at your individual school SLTs, you can get that breakdown for your individual school. Your schools SLT should be providing you a copy of the budget. And in that budget, you should be able to see what those actual allocations are for each individual school. But as a CEC, if you'd like to see it for each school, Linda, are we gonna be able to get them a copy of what it looks like for each individual school by having an SLT budget breakdown for each school?
We could,
Okay.
if,
Can we
yeah,
work on that?
definitely, we could.
Can we work on that? I know Jonathan is excited to see that.
Okay.
Sorry, Linda.
That's okay. If we can get that to you for September. There is a public version, but it makes it, what Jonathan's saying is gonna be more complicated for him to load. And we do the back work for him so that he has it. So we'll do that for the CEC. Linda, can we have that ready for them by, let's say, September first? Because I know a lot of people are gonna be on vacation in August, so is that okay with the CEC? September 1st? Can we get that for them by September first?
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, if we could put it in a Google folder file, I'll share it with the CEC and then the CEC president can distribute to the CEC members.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Asking you to receive it. I think I did that once before, but anyway, so yeah, all right. So, and we're gonna get to that point right now, right? We will now take public feedback into account into the coming weeks as we continue to work towards complying with this actual mandate. The deadline for submitting public comment is July 29th, which is tomorrow, and I apologize for that, but we were supposed to have this meeting last week, but due to the tornadoes and watches and stuff like that, we didn't want anybody out in public, and CEC was watching for the safety of all of our community. So that's why it's just a 1 day for now. But please share your comments and feedback by using the C4E email address you see on the screen. It's contractsforexcellence@schools.nyc.gov. If we can throw that into the chat, which I see Katina's thrown into the chat. Thank you, Katina. Right on it. I'm gonna pause there and see if there's any questions from the CEC members so far. Please note, I'm going to get into class size reduction in a few minutes. I don't know if you want to wait till I go through that and then ask your questions generally, or if you like to pause here. Up to you.
Yeah, I mean, it might be more effective for us to hear everything. and
Okay,
ask
great.
questions.
So, that's fine. Now we're gonna be moving on to the second major topic. We have already discussed the contract for excellence funding stream. Now we will wrap up by discussing the fiscal year 27 class size reduction plan. As you all know, in September of 2022, Governor Hochul enacted Chapter 556 of the laws of 2022, which requires that New York City School District to create a class size reduction plan for all of New York City K-12 community districts and high schools. Chapter 556 sets forth requirements that apply only to the New York City School District, including new class size cap for all district K-12 schools, a class size reduction plan, which must be approved by the United Federation of Teachers and the Council of School Supervisors and Administrators, you know it as UFT and CSA, the unions representing New York City school district teachers, principals, respectively, and submitted as part of the contract for excellence. A prescribed timeline for the public process for the development, posting, and submission of the contract for excellence. The annual implementation reports submitted to New York State Education Department on the status of the class size reduction plan. Penalties in the form of withheld or reduced state funding if adequate progress to reduce class size is not made. The law imposes specific class size caps within New York City school districts for the first time. Prior legislation required a plan to reduce average class sizes and did not set forth specific average class size caps. Class size caps had previously been set subject to collective bargaining agreements between New York City Public Schools and the UFT and could be exceeded in certain circumstances. Public schools and the UFT and could be exceeded in certain circumstances. As a reminder, the law prescribes specific class caps of 20 students in grades K through 3, 23 students in grades 4 to 8, and 25 students in grades 9 to 12, and 40 students in physical education and performing groups in all grades, K to 12. On June 4th of 2026, both houses of the New York State Legislature passed amendments to the class size law that changed the annual citywide compliance target for New York City public schools to 70% in fiscal year 2026-27, 80% in 27-28, 90% in 28-29, and 100% in 29-30. New York City Public Schools is fully in support of this change in timeline to ensure that our intensive focus on capital strategies for class size reduction can take root and be implemented with fidelity. If you could just leave it on this slide for a few minutes. On June 10th, New York City Public Schools released a draft version of the class size reduction plan for the 26-27 school year. As a reminder, this plan must be signed off on by the United Federation of Teachers and the Council for School Supervisors and Administrators, in addition to New York City Public Schools. This draft plan has not been signed off on by the Chancellor and the respective labor partner presidents and may be revised based on feedback obtained during the public comment process. So this process allows for additional feedback to happen, and then there will be a finalization that will be reported at a later time. The draft plan includes specific actions for schools, along with a detailed plan of implementation that is being undertaken across the New York City Public Schools central offices. Alongside the School Construction Authority, which I will discuss in more detail on the next slide, but keep it here for a second. The public is able to provide feedback on the draft plan via this process. The email to share feedback is in the final slide of this section, which I will share shortly. However, in the draft plan, we highlight critical data points regarding current compliance across the city, which are also outlined on this slide and show compliance rates across the city in the 25-26 school year. So on this slide, you should see every single district and where every single district lies as it relates to class size reduction. Our compliance rate for fiscal year 25-26 is in District 15 is 64%. That's including the exemptions. Without the exemptions, the compliance rate was 59.5%, which is 0.5 off of the 60%. The required benchmark for this school year is 60%, as you all are aware. The changes proposed in this plan will support us in making progress towards meeting the 70% benchmark for 26-27. In this case, you will not see here, I'm going to name those. I am thinking of PS 39, PS 107, 118, and 124 in this particular plan have classes with exceptions due to capital plan category, which I will share with you shortly. I want you to know that the Chancellor has been working on a new process called working groups in each district. We have formulated the committee for the working group in this district, which will include a community member from community board. I believe it's 7. I keep mixing it up at 7, which is the Sunset Park section. We have CEC member on board. I believe 2 CEC members, but any alternates can take the place of any of the CEC members so needed. We have President's Council. We have student. We have principals. We will have teachers, and then we will have district staff, and we will have essential staff. Our first meeting is going to be on September 3rd. Nicole Lanzalato, who's the deputy superintendent, will kind of chair that committee in some possible proposals that I, as a superintendent, have reviewed of wanting to make in order to reach the 70% for the fiscal year 26-27. In addition to that, any more feedback we will be presenting on a constant basis throughout the year to get ongoing feedback, not only from the committee, but the different constituencies those committee members serve on, as well as eventually the schools that will be impacted by the decisions as we go forward. We've already started that process. I just want you to be aware. Data shows that the districts with the greatest percentage of classes at or below the class size caps are in District 32, which is Bushwick, which has reached 81% compliance. District 23, Ocean Hill, Brownsville, and District 16, Stuyvesant Heights, Crown Heights, Bed-Stuy. District 26, Bayside, Glen Oaks, District 31, Staten Island, and District 20, Bainbridge, Fort Hamilton have the lowest percentage of classes at or below the class size caps. While the data demonstrates district level averages, There are schools within the comparatively high compliance districts that do already have classes that exceed the new class size caps. Class size compliance varies across grade bands as well. With the highest compliance rates in elementary school, the Bronx has the highest share of classes in compliance with the class size caps at 71%, followed by Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island in that order. That is due to enrollment trends. If we go to the next slide, actually, keep it on the, yep, yeah, leave it right there. This slide demonstrates the growth in compliance from 2024-25 to 25-26 progress that is outlined within fiscal year 27 class size reduction plan. This is a result of funding allocated for teachers in schools through the school-driven process in last year's plan, not this current past year. District 15 had a 14% increase in the percentage of classes under caps. Through these efforts, the impact on compliance across the city was as follows. Elementary grades made the most significant progress. Grades K through 3 saw a 28.7% increase in compliance. Grades 4 to 5 increased compliance by 23%. Middle school and high schools made meaningful progress. Middle schools grew by 20.4% more in compliance. High schools grew to 16% more in compliance. Schools that were awarded additional teachers positions increased compliance by 27%, as contrasted with 7% of schools that were not awarded additional teaching positions through the fiscal year 26 funding process. So we have increased. Schools that got more funding were able to get closer to class size. Schools that didn't get the funding were able to get to class size, but without the funding. And that's because we're strategically looking at how schools are utilizing their funding and ensuring that the priority is the class size in their school. In addition to the summary of impact and outline of the previous slides, the draft plan covers the following major components of the approach to class size implementation and more, including. Before I go into that, I just wanted to give you the last slide that I spoke a lot about in terms of the schools. I just wanted you to have details that specifically talk about our district. I do have some plans about how we're going to get there for next year. I just don't want to be premature about those plans until we connect with the working group that can provide guidance and advice on how we're going to move forward before I start speaking about things that I haven't even initiated with the actual schools. And I think the school leaders and their SLTs deserve the respect to hear about some of these things first that are going to impact them. The fiscal year 27 class size planning and funding survey, which serves as a critical data collection point to support planning for fiscal year 27 and the out years of implementation, details on the more intensive approach to capital planning, utilizing survey results and other data, including an increase in $1.5 billion in the current capital plan to align with this approach. Note that the capital planning, when they mention capital planning, that means money toward building. Building doesn't necessarily mean build a new school. It could also mean breaking up a room that can be converted into 2 classrooms because the room is large enough for the specs of having 2 rooms as opposed to 1, right? The approach to teacher recruitment to support teacher hiring for class size, District 15 hosts hiring fairs to bring in talent. We are also working closely with HR to ensure that our school leaders have access. Currently, today, I looked at our hiring. We have 26 vacancies. As I reviewed the vacancies, we really only have about 8 vacancies. But 26 because many of those teachers are still waiting for the state to finalize their licenses, which will happen in the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we have been expediting those, but we're looking really good and in shape with having the teachers we need to be able to teach in our schools, even with the expansion of class size in an ever so small market of teachers right now. The allocation of $244 million to support teacher hiring for class size reduction, which we've been seeing. We had a successful hiring fair that we did in the beginning of May to get in early with the teachers. And a lot of our teachers, despite waiting for their budgets till June, were already doing preliminary offers in May and the beginning of June to commit with these teachers. Principals, yeah. What did I say? I said teachers, right? Yeah. Well, some teachers in some schools through their hiring committees, yeah. So this plan is successful at the following link, if we can go on the next slide. Yeah, and then you get into this. And again, this draft version of that has not yet been signed off on by the UFT and CSA, who are required to sign off on the plan because we're waiting to get feedback from all the constituencies and then see where we go from there. However, class size reduction is a complex process that requires increasing investments in not only teachers, but also the classroom space. Under Chancellor Samuels and Mayor Mandani, New York City Public Schools has made a shift in the approach to planning and considering space in relation to class size reduction efforts, marking a substantial commitment to implementation. So to that end, in March of 2026, New York City Public Schools and the School Construction Authority engaged in a new collaborative approach to evaluating and planning for space needs to support class size reduction. Through this joint effort, teams from both agencies reviewed over 600 schools that had centrally identified space deficits and developed a comprehensive plan to identify different pathways to provide each school with the necessary space to comply with the law. For the first time, the plan includes a strategic blend of capital as well as non-capital strategies that aim to more efficiently utilize existing space to support compliance, and is described in greater detail in section 4.3.1 of the draft plan. I'm just going to give you one example. At PS 295, co-located with middle school 443, you all know as New Voices, is a middle school and an elementary school. One of the schools has more space than the other school. As a result of that work, the school leaders have come together to come to agreement with sharing space that will be reallocated and repurposed so that both schools can meet class size reduction without having to reduce enrollment or anything else in their school communities. Within their agreement and their settlement, we've come to the agreement through building council, and the school leaders have made that particular agreement. We are also working with BNS and DCS, who have a historic long relationship as almost a K-5 and then a 6-12 school community, where next year they will be engaging in what that will look like for the following year in order to make the space available for BNS to be able to actually, Brooklyn New School, to be able to have the allocated spaces necessary to meet class size reduction. So those are some of the non-capital strategies that are being addressed so that we don't reduce enrollment, but utilize space that already exists in co-located schools where one school might have additional space than the other. So that's an example of that.
Not to interrupt people, should we be on the next slide?
Yes, we should be.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you get a copy of that report from the SBA or by school for our district?
Well, they're still working on those. I can't share that yet because we're still in the process of like balancing them out. So after I meet with Office of District Planning and we get a solidified thing, that will be shared with the working group. And I'm sure that somebody from the working group will be willing to share with others and we can share that. But it's like a moving target because Central has come up with an idea based on numbers. Plans, numbers, ideas, thoughts, 4 different methods and approaches that we can take. They've categorized that. Now it's the superintendent working with them saying, yeah, that's not gonna work. Yeah, that relation's not gonna work. So like a complicated situation, which is not complicated in our district because BNS and DCS have a really strong relationship. But to give you an idea of what complications exist. The first example that I gave with 295 and 443 are 2 schools in my district. I'm the superintendent. We're gonna make that work. The second example I just gave with BNS and BCS, 2 different superintendents. That's now having to have a conversation between 2 school leaders of 2 different superintendencies and figuring out how do we make this work. That's a little more complicated, right? So the reason why we haven't put that out is because these things are about also relationships and how we figure out how do we make the relationships working relationship. The working group is going to be designed to help us get to those places where we can say, here's what we've established, we know will work in our district based on all the constituencies being involved in that process, if that makes sense. So yes, to come, just not yet, right? Again, to that end, in a new collaboration approach, I think I read that part, I just want to get to the part, oh yeah. The city of New York, under Mayor Mandani's leadership, also added an additional $1.5 billion into the capital plan to support the construction of new seats in alignment with this new approach. As I stated before, new seats can mean new school building, can mean an annex building, can mean renting space out from archdiocese or whatever other locations we can find. But new capital can also mean converting a room that's large enough for 2 classrooms and dividing it so there's 2 separate classrooms with a wall. Or converting a music space that's no longer being used into classroom spaces that can be used. Or old office spaces that were in an existing building that are now being removed to make room for classes instead. Does that make sense? All right. Broadly, the following categories represent the range of approaches we will take to support each school, and they are as follows. Non-capital high school policy and programming. For many of our high schools, space needs can be addressed through efficient programming and policy adjustments rather than changing to physical spaces. These schools will receive centralized support to explore such opportunities and may inform system-level policy proposals. So, for example, some schools might just have a programming that expands how many rooms are being used, but if they change their program, it would fix the problem. That's going to be a complicated approach that Central is going to get involved with supporting as it relates to expertise programming to support schools. In our district, we now only have 1 high school, 6 to 12. Our Opal David Alesh will be supporting that school in figuring out what, if anything, in their programming can be changed to meet their school's needs with class size reduction, right? That might mean some strategic changing. That may not make some schools happy because they've been accustomed to using the same program year after year after year, but it might have to change, right? That's one pathway. Second pathway, non-capital. That's a tier 1. That's enrollment and or space in building. These are schools where minor adjustments to incoming enrollment or reallocation of spaces within co-located campuses may resolve space needs. I gave you 2 examples of that, right? Non-capital tier 2. These schools are in districts or areas where there are existing nearby buildings that may have excess capacity that can be utilized to support compliance. So that might be a need to change zoning a little bit so that the excess students go to the building that's in a neighboring school to make them equalize with the number of students to meet class size reduction, but also fill both schools where one building's overutilized and the other building's underutilized. These will be explored for comprehensive solutions within the context of district-wide needs and through community engagement could lead to resittings, mergers, or other changes in school utilization subject to public review and PEP approval or rezonings subject to CEC approval. So those are some of the examples that I gave that the working group will be working on to decide if in fact these are right for our district's community. I started to share with you thinking of some. We'll discuss them and explore them further in the working group, and we'll start that meeting September 3rd. So more to come on that. And we will be sure to add that to our CEC superintendent's report to say how those working group meetings are going. I might even invite some of the working group members to speak as opposed to just me speaking as a superintendent so that we can show and see that it's a collaborative effort and not just a superintendent top-down effort, right? These will be, I talked about that. So capital is the other one. These are schools where some level of capital investment may be needed, ranging from smaller capital task force projects to increase capacity within a school with smaller space needs to the construction of new school buildings for additions to address larger needs. In the next phase of this work, superintendents are working with the Office of District Planning and other central teams to consider the preliminary pathways identified for schools and work with communities through the planning process, as well as the partnership with SCA on the next step for each identified school. As I shared, the working groups is going to be the way we're convening, and we're convening on September 3rd to hit the ground running before the school year even starts. So on the next slide, we will consider all feedback received on our proposed plan during the public process. The deadline for submitting public comment will be July 29th, as I shared with you before. Those who wish to provide feedback may submit their comments by email to classsize@schools.nyc.gov. This concludes the presentation. Please be mindful of all the email addresses provided for public comments for each section.
Good job. That's a lot. Are you comfortable taking over the parliamentarian role?
And I do a crash course again.
You want to take it?
Tim, you got your stopwatch?
I forgot, but I think it's summer will be okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay, do we have anyone on Zoom, that would like to comment? Anybody on the translation lines that, have any comments, we'll ask you to go first. No? Okay. Anyone else on Zoom that would like to comment?
No questions from the Spanish line.
And no questions from Mandarin language line either.
And no question from the Bangla line either.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this point, I'll just go around the room and start with you, Christina. Do you have any comments or questions?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for all of that. It's a lot to digest. And yeah, so I'm like processing the information shared. I'm sure there's some recency bias in the question because I'm thinking now about class size more than the contracts for excellence. But I mean, I think that's also a reflection of the conversations that I've had with lots of school leaders, which is there's a lot of push and pull around how space is going to be used. And everybody's navigating a really narrow tightrope on how to make sure that class size gets reduced. We just have a finite amount of space and a finite amount of resources. So what I'm wondering is, you know, a school doesn't love it when an art room has to be converted to a classroom, but that's going to have to happen.
Yes.
At the same time, we also know that enrollment fluctuates. And I know that some of the projections for school enrollment over the coming years is slated to decrease. And so one thing that I'm wondering is like, for the capital changes or the space-based changes, are they being considered in such a way so that if those needs change in the future, the space could be converted back to how it had been previously?
Yeah, I would imagine that if schools are reducing space, and let's say in a particular neighborhood, let's just use Park Slope, which we know is overutilized, and consistently for the past 5 to 10 years have been overutilized, even with the decrease in enrollment, they're still overutilized, especially to meet class size reduction. So if we were to put a new site, and there'd be a decrease in enrollment at a particular site, for example, they can reallocate how they're using spaces. It would be the same. I want to give an example of that now. So currently, right now, you've heard me talk about, for example, Bushwick and District 23 and District 32, Bushwick and Brownsville. Historically, those districts have been underutilized with the amount of spaces they have. So historically, they have already been always able to meet class size reduction. They have an abundance of additional spaces in their schools and districts because they're underutilized. So now they're utilizing their spaces in many ways. With class size reduction, which has already been, as you can see, almost a whole district at 81% already, they're already meeting most of those particular things. It's within pockets of those districts that they may not be meeting. So we would make whatever attempts we need to make the spaces at those sites. Those other sites can continue to do what they're doing because that's the space that they've always had and historically would have. The only thing that might or would change is, for example, if we're saying, let's say there's a school here and a school here. This school's underutilized, this school's overutilized. Some of those kids now may have to go to this particular school. Now we have 2 schools that are fairly utilized. If enrollment goes up or enrollment goes down, those are projections and things that we'll look at. Office of District Planning usually takes a 3 and a 5-year projection look and calculates numbers to determine roughly what it would look like. And so we're trying to still, in our planning, still maintain a thought process of what the next 5 to 10 years will look like with the changes that we will be making now. Yeah.
I'm allowed to piggyback on the
You're the parliamentarian.
So I heard you say something to the effect that if a school is overutilized, students who go to the other school, or is there like a system where you're just gonna cap and say no more enrollment, you have to go to?
Yeah. So let me explain the capping, because I know Jonathan's gonna say, what's capping, right? I know he knows, but so capping is something that we have historically used in New York City public schools. Historically, most school districts in elementary school are zoned. There are some that aren't. For example, the district I formerly came from, in District 7, I unzoned the elementary schools because there was a competition with charters, so we had to unzone them to allow parents to select which school they wanted to go to. We're never going to be able to do that. So we have zoned elementary schools. In order for me to move forward in moving kids from this school to that school, it's not a process of me moving kids from one school to the other. I have to go through a process that's through the CEC because the CEC is the one that approves rezoning in a particular district. We would have to go through a formal process with the CEC in partnership to determine whether or not this rezoning is going to fix the class size reduction need that is needed in a particular area. So that's what would happen before we even get to that. Going back, that's the rezoning part of moving one kid to the other. Now, what you're talking about is capping. So I'm going to give an example because I'm going to use 107 as an example. We've had to cap before there, and we've also had to cap at 118 before. What does that mean? They physically don't have the space to add another class. So we cannot add another class. So when we go over by a student, we still register that student. That student now has to come to the district. We have to verify that there are no seats available for that student in that school or space to create another class. And then we do what's called the capping process. That means we're stopping enrollment at this zone school for this particular grade. I just want to be clear. Fourth grade, we can no longer take any more students. So therefore, Johnny now comes in with mom to register. There's no more seats. We're going to register Johnny, but we're also going to give Johnny a letter because it's been approved by the district and enrollment office to cap that fourth grade and send Johnny to the neighboring school. So if we're at 107, I'm just going to throw out a number. Let's say we're going to then send him to 39. Let's just assume 39 has a seat, although we know 39 doesn't have a seat. But let's just assume 39 has a seat. That Johnny now gets a letter that says, hey, we don't have a seat for you in your zone school. We're now giving you access to go to PS 39. You're going to take this paper and register at 39. You can go to 39. But this letter also states to you, if a seat becomes available, you are entitled to come to this school. So if 107, a child leaves, there becomes a seat available. Johnny's family is supposed to be called before anybody else is registered because Johnny was the first one to try to register and didn't get a seat. Mom can then be called and say, hey, we now have a seat at 107. Would you like to transfer your kid back to our school because you have a right and entitled to do so? Johnny's mom can say, yes, I'd like to take that seat at 107 and then transfer the child to 107. But Johnny's mom could also say, nope, I kind of like 39. I'm happy with 39. I'll keep my kid at 39. That then opens up the seat for somebody else. That's the capping process. We still can go through the capping process in New York City Public Schools when we're in a space capacity filling. 39, 118, now recently 124 and 107 are, and even 10 are historical schools that are going to be at a point where they're always going to have a cap. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead with Angelica.
I have one comment and one question, so just thank you for that. 39 and 118 are two of my favorite schools. When I did school visits, that was very top of mind, and as you know, my child is at 107, so yeah, you particularly interested in up to date on what's happening there. Sure, I'll hear a lot from this.
In terms of the working group, I have a thought for 39 to make room for class size for fiscal year 27. We're working on a space for 107. We've submitted the location and seeing if it is a viable location with school construction authority. So to be determined for that. And 118, we've also been working with what they have at their particular school to make room for class size at the actual building that we currently have.
And then yeah, because they can. It's like, it's a spacious building, but it's weirdly allocated. Okay. My question was around C for E. So you shared with us the funding that was allocated to D14.
Yes.
I'm just curious, can you just kind of provide a little insight into how the funding is distributed amongst the school districts? Is there a formula?
Yeah, so there's formula. So you've heard in the past with Contract for Excellence that we do the formulas based on student. I think I presented that, I want to say earlier in the year, where it breaks down the weights for each individual student. So schools are getting money for each individual student based on the weight that each student has. So you and I will probably have similar weights, but I might have more weight than you. So for example, if I'm a multilingual learner who's also economically disadvantaged, maybe an STH, and also students in temporary housing. Thank you for that. I think he's gonna get me today. And I also happen to be a special ed student. My weights are going to be higher because each thing that I said brings additional funding to it. Versus you might be a multilingual learner, but that's it, right? So you're going to get money for multilingual learners. So let's say you get 100, but I get 150, right?
Okay.
So it's first on that. And then it's the number of students that you have at your school. These projections are made by each individual student for each individual school. Schools get their register projections back in December. And then they have an opportunity to agree with the register projection or appeal the register projection. So they say, I think I'm gonna have 8 more students in the ICT class. I think I'm gonna have 3 less students.
Okay.
They may get the budgets adjusted. And then that's how they get their budgeting formula. So right now, schools are working under a projected budget right now. They're allocated for projected budgets as of June 26th when they leave. That doesn't include students who come in with an IEP in September. That doesn't include the student who leaves your school to leave the state or goes to another school in the middle of the year. So they're working with like monopoly money in a sense, right? They're working with monopoly money until they're given their actual final registered total by October 31st. So every school works conservatively and they have to put what's called register set aside. Money that they put to the side in the event that they go under the amount that they're supposed to have. There are 2 rounds of that. October 31st is the register cutoff for the number of students. And then you have December 31st, which is the cutoff for multilingual learners and special ed, because they have until December 31st to be identified as special ed or have a special ed identity in order to receive additional funding that will come back to them in February. So there's multiple opportunities for students to make money. What schools have been doing, especially now this year, because the chancellor has announced that schools are being held harmless, but with some principals, correct, with the possibility of that changing going forward.
Which means held harmless.
Held harmless means you got money for 100 students. You only had 95 students. You owe the city for 5 students that they gave you more money on. You got to now pay that back from your budget. Held harmless means you don't have to pay that back, right? There is no guarantee that that's going to happen going forward. Now, there are some school leaders who have never been through that process before because since COVID of 2019, every school has been held harmless. That's been 7 years being held harmless. Some principals have never been exposed to that. I have been a principal that has been under the administration where we were held responsible if we went under or over. So I was always ultra conservative. So some of our leaders this year, I can tell you, have been working with their budgets more conservatively and not wanting to overspend in the reality that they may have to eventually pay back.
Okay.
Is that good? All right.
Okay, Anna, do you have any questions?
Yeah, so,
It was thorough.
Okay.
well, thank you for all the information. My question is regarding like the new expansion for, special education, for pre-K.
Mhm.
So I would like to know if, if that's already been allocated on 3 schools, which are PS 15, PS 958, and PS 24.
Yes.
We'll be starting those,
That's correct.
programs,
The
right?
3K programs, yeah,
So-
with special ed.
With special education, right? So I was wondering if those schools, have with the smaller class sizes, is that part of, like, or
That
is it
funding is
pre-K
completely separate
different?
because universal pre-K funding is separate from New York City's contract for excellence funding. So the allocation of the contract for excellence pre-K money goes to the Division of Early Childhood. They reallocate that funding for each individual program that goes in an individual school. So
Okay.
right now, each of those schools receive specific funding for that specific program individually, separate from their regular school's budget.
Okay, and also, for applications, like for pre-K, families that would like to apply, it will be a different application, right?
They would go to the same particular application in the application process, and there will be some drop-down menus that allow them to select Many of those families will already know that they're supposed to be receiving those services, and they already are in contact with New York City Public Schools and Department of Health to help them with that process.
Okay, and just to confirm this, we do get a lot of questions from families reaching out to us, and if we want to provide them with the right information, PS 24, they will be adding a Horizon pre-K, correct?
They're adding a Horizon pre-K.
958
958 is not Nest, Ames,
8.
and 15 will be adding ACES.
Perfect, okay, that's all, thank you.
Which is consistent with the program that each school has already in kindergarten going up. So 24 has the Horizon program, Ames is at 958, which is that inclusive program, and at 15 they have ACES. So it's a continuation of the program.
Great. Thank you.
It's just earlier access.
Welcome, Catherine. Can we call you Kat?
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome, Kat. Do you have any questions?
Don't have any questions right now. That was a lot.
Thank you. Ken, do you have any questions for the superintendent?
I'm just taking notes.
Good day.
Sing Shaw, do you have any questions?
我是想问一下，比如说像一些海外总跟 US 他们的孩子不适应的时候，想转去175学校的话，他们的时长比较长，家长就是说，
我是指他在正规教育里面，他想要转到75学区，对，因为75学区是10个月的，然后一般的正规教育是有寒暑假，所以如果他们想要在学期中转，就可以转。Our question is like for the general education. Let's say some students they are in the general education school, but if the parents consider that they would like to transfer the child to the District 75, because District 75 has more school year, like about they have like 10 months, right? And then the regular school has like
No, it's the opposite. So I'll explain that. So I want to move away from this idea of the general ed school. All of our schools service all children. So they service special ed and general ed students in our community school. And in fact, in District 15, we're trying to move more away from sending students to District 75 and more keeping them in our community schools while providing them intensive support early on so that they can stay there. Research shows that they thrive most when they stay in their community schools. So that's the first point.
Yes.
The second point is that the District 75 is in a process of where you get transferred to. District 75 is a unique program designed to provide additional special ed services based on your disability to support students with the maximum needs. So for example, if you have an emotional disturbance, you might need a 3-to-1 or a 6-to-1, meaning 3 students or 6 students to 1 teacher. That might be a special case where you might have to go to a District 75 program.
Yes.
You might have a specific disability that requires you to get intensive care. That process, you don't just go and transfer to District 75. You have to go through the process of the school-based support team at your community school to determine if that's the appropriate setting for the child. That's not just determined by the parent. That's determined by a committee of special ed psychologists, guidance counselor, the school leader, and the parents also involved in the decision. But it doesn't mean that because the parent wants it, that they're going to get that service. It's a decision that's made from the clinicians, the teachers, the administration, and the parent collectively about what's best for the child as it relates to their learning academically. So I want to move away from this idea that you can just transfer your kids to D75. That just doesn't happen that way. In fact, we're trying to move the opposite way of that.
他不希望说，他希望尽可能的把学生保留在一般的正常教育里面，而不是把学生直接转学到技术学区。他也转学不了，因为决定权在他们学校的老师、校长，还有心理咨询专家回顾之后，看他们是不是真的需求可以转到技术学区，因为技术学区它是对6个学生的去做这个设计，但一般通识教育的这个学校可不是这样去计划的，所以他们尽可能把在正常教育里面寻求更多的协助，帮助这个小孩保留在原来的学校，而不是说直接要转到技术学区去。
就是我也收到一些家长他们的声音，就是说，因为老师有说过，他
这个小孩需要，
这个他需要。但是在这个申请的过程中，就是想要转去这所学校的话， 收到的邮件就是通知没有收到，等待的时间太长了，小孩子就没有得到更多的关注。
所以其实是在他的学校，老师已经说他是要求。Okay. She say actually the parents receive the information from the teacher saying that this child supposed the better way is that they have to send this child to District 75. However, while the parents were waiting to receive the information from District 75, they have long waiting lists or they have to spend a lot of time to
That's
wait.
different. I understand what you're saying. So you're asking so what I need Kinshar to do is to email. I'll get you the email for the AZ.
Yes.
She's the administrator of special education on my team. Her name is Jeanette Nadal. I'll have Jeanette look at where your child is. That child is on the list because it has been a waiting list for D75. We've been informed that every student for D75 will receive their seat for incoming school year September. The parent will get the opportunity to visit the site and determine whether or not they want to go to that site. They don't get to select which site they want to go to. They have to go to the site that there's availability for that student's disability with a seat available.
Yes.
So if I get the name of the student, I can help
Yes.
connect. So what I want her to email is Brenda Diaz, DIAZ 14.
Can you repeat that?
So DIAZ, the number 1, the number 4 at schools.nyc.gov. You can email her. She will connect that parent with Jeanette Nadal, who's my administrator of special ed.
Is there any the direct phone number? You can call? No.
When you email Brenda, Brenda will get back to you within a day or two. Max.
DIAZ
Yes.
14 at schools.nyc.gov.
That's correct.
Okay.
Let me just make sure that's her email again.
确认一下。
就是说
这个是1、2、3的1。
So we're gonna move on to the next Xingsa, is it okay?
还没吃的。
So,
所以像现在的已经是
so Jonathan,
我们
Yeah.
学生
So in June, at our June meeting, we were still waiting for which schools received their class size reduction funding that they had applied for. I know that they have since heard.
Yes.
But I was wondering if you could just talk about, which schools received the funding they requested. Were there any schools that did not receive the funding?
Yeah, the majority of our
Why?
schools did not receive. 4 schools in our district received funding.
Okay.
516 in Sunset Park, 131 by the Borough Park area, 136, which is also in Sunset Park, middle school 136. I gave you 3, right?
Yeah.
516, 131. There's one school I'm missing. I will get that school for you. But those 4 schools received funding. One of the reasons why they received funding is because of the other criteria that we were thinking about. They were going to focus on the schools that had the more economically disadvantaged students, schools that had the actual space, and schools that would get to 100% compliance if they were given the funding this particular. So those 4 schools fit the criteria to meet class size reduction fully, and they were the most economically disadvantaged within our district, and servicing the most needy population within our district.
Okay. And then there was a question in the chat, asking about all of the development happening in Gowanus. And so for the neighborhoods like Gowanus that are going to be exponentially expanding soon, how is that increase in growth and likely future D15 students impacting the plans for school enrollment and class size reduction?
As of right now, it's not. So the Office of District Planning usually gets an assessment around communities and neighborhoods by zip code about the number of students that are projected to be within a zip code within a 5 to 10 year projection. So when Department of Buildings does their work around when they're building, they usually make also estimates of who and what's going to be within particular communities and zip codes. And so that's how Office of District Planning is able to make some register projections within school districts. PS32 has an abundance of space that can be utilized while making room for class size in addition to, because they have expanded space in their building. Remember, we added an extended wing to that particular school. There's also some neighboring schools within that can also be We're also exploring K027, which is not too far from that particular developmental area, which is literally across the BQE. That might be also utilization. But as of right now, they don't foresee that impacting our schools in our district yet.
I forgot about Kara. Thanks for reminding me, Angelica. Kara, do you have any questions for the
I
superintendent?
do, thank you. Superintendent Alvarez, last year, I had asked you at one of our first meetings about if we were tracking any data about these classes with smaller class size, and if they were actually having better outcomes than the larger ones. Did we actually take that data for the year? Can we make that a priority for next year? If we didn't, I am just curious to see, we're pouring all this money into it, and in theory, it does sound great. And I know my children have actually benefited from it this year, but I would love to see some numbers on how well these classes are doing.
Yeah, I haven't tracked it that way. That can be, it's really hard as a moving target to figure that out. I can work on that this year to see if we can be more intentional about tracking. I have class sizes. What I can, we haven't received our data yet from the state, so I can't speak to that, but I do know that we have exponentially grown as it relates to our growth in our screener data in terms of Acadians and in terms of math. We have exponentially grown in K through 2, but I think a large part of the K through 2 is that we've been focusing a lot on ensuring that all of our teachers in pre-K to 2 are trained in either Orton Gillingham or IMSE, which is really teaching them. It's almost like the science of reading around the foundational skills, if you will. And teachers have gotten stronger at that, which has gotten them stronger in supporting students when they're teaching them the curricula that already exists. So we've been seeing a closing of that gap in K through 2. So I would imagine over time, we're going to see that reflect in grades 3 through 5 as well. But to your point, I'm going to see what we can do. I will reach out to Erin Gent to see if she can help us figure out how can we track that.
I mean, from my perspective, it feels like if the story is good, it is a really good way to argue to the state to get more money, right? If you can actually track outcomes, you would think they'd give you more money if it wasn't just if it was based on cold hard data, right?
Yeah. So I have a question about your question, Kara. I hope you don't mind, since I didn't get past it. In terms of tracking the success of small classes, there's so many different ways besides hard data in terms of student reading and writing, but the social aspect of it. So I would beg to consider different aspects of.
I would agree, except I would need at least a year or two for things to settle down first. Because as you all know, we also implemented the cell phone ban. And I can tell you for a fact that the cell phone ban has impacted the social and emotional well-being of students in classrooms, especially in elementary through middle school, because we've seen a lot less incidences as a result of kids not going back and forth. As a matter of fact, really the only incidences we've gotten are the incidences where the social media is at home and now they're coming to school to bring the social media issues to school. But we haven't had a lot of issues
like
with
the good old days.
Right. So I would love to do that, the other aspects, but I think we would need another year of clearing of the cell phone to see what their numbers were, and then next year seeing what the numbers were, and that letting it be our baseline. To track it other ways other than academically. Because then we could say that this is definitive due to the class size.
And it's not only reduction of incidents, it's also how students feel about their environment overall. Like they're seeing more because it's a smaller class.
Certainly what I can say, Kara, and this has been my view now for the past couple of months, this is only Superintendent Alvarez's view and not anybody else's view or New York City Public Schools view. I'm giving you my own personal opinion. Class size for an ICT class, when it's 20 students, there are only 9 special ed students in the class, which essentially there's 11 gen ed students. That's 20 students compared to 32 students, for example, where it could be 12 special ed students. So if you want to think about that in another way, instead of having 12 special ed students, now you have 9. To me, that's even a more restrictive environment than a 12-to-1 class that's self-contained. Because if you think about a self-contained 12-to-1 class, there are 12 special ed students to 1 teacher. In an ICT setting, you might have 20 students, even if you divided the class into half, that's 10 students for each teacher. That's still less than 12 teachers to 1. But then when you're thinking about special ed, there are 9 students compared to 12 students. So in my view, students are getting more attention in an ICT class with 20 students because those special ed students are now getting even more attention because there's now 9 instead of 12. So presumably, I would believe that we would see greater outcomes for, especially for our ICT classes, because students are now getting more individualized attention, especially our special ed students.
It seems like there could be an interesting opportunity, and then we'll move on, I think, from this, but given that there's a shift towards the portfolio de graduate and some shifts in how we might be thinking about student evaluation over time as part of that, I mean, there's lots of different variables that are hard to extricate from one another. The diversity plan, there's been COVID, there's been the cell phone ban, there's class size reduction. I think it's going to be very difficult to say exactly what any particular variable caused or caused. But given all of those things that have been changing over the last 5 years or so, what can we see as a composite picture of students, not just in terms of test scores and reading levels, but in terms of what we're seeing holistically as well.
There's one question I'm not sure if we got to on the chat.
I think we got to it, yeah.
Yeah, about Jeanette.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Superintendent. Thank you. Summer break.
Thanks, Linda. You can have a good night, Linda.
Thank you, Linda, for joining us.
Thank you.
And I know that we've got, thank you, thanks so much. We've got Councilmember Ressler joining us on the line. Would you like to say something while we've got our attention here?
Happy to say hi. Thanks so much, and always grateful for the really remarkable team year in, year out at CEC 15. It's as rigorous and productive a CEC as we have in the city of New York, and I really just want to thank each of you for your hard work. I have the privilege of representing just 4 schools in District 15, so we have a little slice on the northern end of the district, but we have amazing schools in District 15. I had my summer check-in with Superintendent Alvarez just a week or so ago, and we were just running through the schools, and we're fortunate to have such amazing schools in our community, and I really want to commend Superintendent Alvarez for just being so on top of every single issue that's going on in our schools, everything that matters. He's got a great handle on it and has a really solution-oriented approach to helping and being a great partner. So thank you, Raphael, for everything you do and your whole team. Just a few quick updates from us that I wanted to share. We've been making investments at each of our schools in District 33. At PS 38, we have new air conditioning in the auditorium and the gymnasium, thanks to our great Principal Pascal's kind of creativity. She was able to get the funding for one and shoehorn it with a little bit. We snuck a little extra in so that she could get it to cover both, and it made such a difference. It was the most pleasant graduation I've had at District 38 in 5 years with that AC flowing. And at PS 261, we have a handful of great capital projects going. One new item that we were able to include in the budget this year are some major upgrades to their sound system in the auditorium. We allocated $250,000 so that will be upgraded this coming year, and we're really excited about that. We've allocated some technology funding to MS 447, and I know that they've badly needed new computers, and they'll be able to do that with the resources we were able to allocate. And at PS 456, our newest school, they're finally going to be a part of the CASA program where the council funds after school programming. We're bringing Noel Pointer in. They do string instruments to PS 456. We're also funding the chess program at PS 38 and the librarian at PS 261 and lots of other good stuff. I'm really grateful that Superintendent Alvarez was able to work out a busing solution for the students at PS 456. It's an unzoned school, so families come from all over, and it was becoming, I think we were going to start losing families if we didn't come up with a solution to provide some busing. And we had been pushing OPT for some time, and Superintendent Alvarez made it happen. So I'm really grateful for that. And the thing I'm most excited about is the Early Childhood Education Center that we have opening on Atlantic Avenue. We brought the mayor down to celebrate it with us. It had been vacant for nearly 5 years. The de Blasio administration spent $10 million to renovate that vacant center. The Adams administration spent tens of millions on rent for a vacant building because he refused to invest in 3K and pre-K at the levels that were obviously needed. And that has all changed with $100 million in funding from Governor Kathy Hochul and a real commitment to implement universal 3K from Mayor Mamdani. We are adding much needed seats on Atlantic Avenue between Borum and Smith this coming September, and we're really excited about it. There are lots of other things going on in the City Council. I guess one thing I'll highlight that has been a real focus for me, I chair the contracts committee, is that I'm very concerned about our school bus contracts, and I think we've just seen real issues of corruption and lack of accountability in school busing for decades. And so we're going to finally be holding a hearing this fall. We've got legislation that we're hoping to pass that will require these bus companies to provide much, much, much more comprehensive data to parents and schools and to all of us about their performance. And we hope that that data can be used by the Mamdani administration and Chancellor Samuels to finally get rid of some of these vendors that are underperforming and leaving our kids and our families in the lurch. So look out for updates on exactly the date that we have for that hearing. It'll likely be in October, but I think it'll be substantive and hopefully an opportunity for parents to contribute and share their insights. So if there's ever any ways that me and my team can help, please let us know. I'm sorry I don't make it to every one of these meetings. Like I said, we only have a little slice of District 15, but we really care and we want to help. And if there's ever anything happening DOE wide where we can be a helpful partner or advocate, please let us know. And of course, if there's ever anything going in our schools in District 33, we want to be there. So thank you for the chance to say hello. I imagine you have a full agenda. I'm happy to take questions if you'd like, but I'm also happy to, pass the mic right back.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so good to hear so much good news. Thanks so much for joining us. And please do keep us posted on that, on the hearing about busing contracts. I know that's something that's a high level concern for folks in the room as well.
Yes.
And 456 bus is a great. That's
You're gonna
great news. I
bus
didn't
on
know.
the edge of, it's gonna ride along the edge of District 15.
Okay.
That allow families to go to a certain stop on the
Okay.
edge of 15, so they don't have to come all the way.
Okay.
And avoid traffic and so on and so forth. So we've been able to get that, and the parents coordinated to figure out who to get which bus stop, so that those kids be able to have access. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you so much. Anyone have any questions or comments for Councilmember Russell? Yeah, go ahead.
Councilmember Wrestler, this is Ken Eby. I just wanted to say thank you for your leadership as one of your constituents and also a PS 261 parent. Probably the most proactive and responsive council member that I've seen. Really appreciate your work.
Ken, you're the best. Your words are very meaningful to me. Thank you for them. And I love working with you and I love working with the whole PS261 community. Erica does an amazing job. It's one of the most engaged PTAs across my entire council district. And it's a really special community. And I just feel lucky to get to be a part of it.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Yeah, our pleasure. All right, I think
Thank
that's
you,
about it.
Superintendent.
Thank you so much. I think that's it for our calendar meeting. I would move to adjourn this session.
Second.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Let's take a 5-minute break. And come back, let's just call it 9 minutes. We'll come back at 8:30. We're right on time. Take a minute, get something to eat, get some water, and folks joining us online, we'll be back at. business meeting to order at 8:30. Yeah.
No phone or the business meeting is still on Zoom?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, we'll do the roll call. Councilmember Anna Maria Aguilar. Present. Angelica Cesario, present. Jonathan Davis.
Present.
Ken Eby.
Was it?
Catherine McKenzie. Present. Katina Rogers.
Present.
Kim Wanless.
Present.
Ching Shazu.
Present.
Kara Whirling Moeller.
Present.
Again. This is the most times we have to read everybody's name.
So thank you.
And more coming up. All right, so this is, this part of the meeting will be more focused on how we're gonna be working together over the coming week. So some nuts and bolts. So the first thing is to vote on approving the minutes from our last couple of meetings of the previous academic year. So these minutes have been shared in the agenda. They are minutes for the meetings of May 12th and June 9th, 2026. I would like to move that we vote to approve the minutes as presented. With the second.
Second.
And I think for this, we can just do a raise hands right there. Everybody in favor of approving the minutes as presented in the agenda? Anybody opposed? Okay,
So you prefer Angelica to read everything?
just to get them like really deeply. All right, so the minutes are approved and we are up to date on all of our minutes through the entire academic year.
Thank you, Shanice and Kara.
Yeah, that was seriously.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great job.
Okay, so the next three things are things that will require a little bit more discussion. First is to vote on a preliminary budget. Then we'll be voting on a calendar for the year, and then we're going to talk about the probably not finalized yet liaisons. So I just wanted to mention all three things because they don't exactly inform each other, but it's all connected to like how we're going to be functioning as a group. So for the budget, since Angelica is not here, I'll just talk through this a little bit. Every CEC has a budget of $25,000 for the year that has specific ways that it can and cannot be spent. A large portion of the funds are allocated towards member reimbursements. This supports childcare, internet and cell phone data plans, and any other expenses that members incur directly to participate in. So things like subway fare, car fare, parking costs, anything that you have to spend out of pocket in order to be here for events. So that is always a little bit tricky to estimate at the start of the year because everybody's needs are different and any given member's needs may change over the course of the year. Last year, we ended up under budgeting a little bit and had to reallocate some funds at the last minute from other budget lines. So I would like to propose that we increase that line again this year, a little higher than what it was last year. Last year we had budgeted $62.50. We took a lot of funds from that line and moved it into things like community events, which.
You want me to share the screen or no?
Oh, yeah, sure. Could you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Awesome. That would be better. I think we as a council share a desire to be able to put more of our funding into community events. However, what we have found is that the policies around expenditures for the council are very restrictive. And so what has happened in years past is that when we have tried to hold aside more money to be able to put in the hands of school communities for these events, the money has ended up going unspent and being returned to NYCPS because of the restrictions that they place around company. So we want to find the right balance of making sure that we're holding enough funds aside to be able to support the opportunities that we can support when there's a chance for us to do that. But still being realistic about when we're going to be able to actually write a check to somebody and when we're not going to be able to get that money, which is very frustrating to do. So I think that the draft here is not bad. What you can see, sorry, the screen is like, it's hard to read. It's not-
You might have it, it's the paper form.
I don't think so. But it's fine when we share it.
Yeah, so there.
You guys wanna look at my laptop and I look at that?
It's here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
There,
back.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's also
that shows the
here.
proposed 26,
Oh, you
Just
have
so
it.
you know.
Yeah, okay, I'll leave it there.
right?
Yeah,
I'm missing it. It's fine.
yeah, so I'll just walk through line by line, and what I want to mention about the budget is that we need to vote to approve something this evening if we can, because that starts the process of giving our council access to funds. If we don't approve a budget, then we definitely can't use any money, so we want to approve something, if we can. We can also amend the budget. We can amend the budget as many times as we need during the year up until a certain cutoff date.
February.
Yeah, so what we decide tonight doesn't have to be set in stone for the entire year. If we come back in August and think, you know what, this isn't sitting right, we can write an amendment to change it. So going line by line, the P card, last year we had 5,000 in the budget. We only spent 2,000. I'm proposing that we allocate 3,000.
I say to supply, what is?
P-card is anything that Shanice can purchase directly. So supplies, what do you usually use it for? Food?
Yes.
Mhm.
The meeting, food for the meetings mostly, legislative breakfast, or we have the town hall. It's just easier to use the P card. It's a credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Purchases have to be below a certain amount, I think, for P-card
Yes,
use. And so there are some things where we then tip into like meeting, food
Yeah.
proposal from the vendor. Meeting to get a purchase order.
Yeah.
The more we can spend through the P-card.
The easier.
Then for the town hall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at every meeting, we should get food.
Will we have a, portion of this discussion that is focused on, kind of.
Turn up the volume.
It's just a little, it's hard to pay, it's an air conditioner.
I know we're talking about the line items right now, but,
Yeah.
can we devote a portion of this discussion to, spending policy potentially?
Yeah, we can try, and Shanice, you can fill in the gaps and.
Yes, we can try.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very complicated.
Yes.
Can we,
That's the word.
for Kat's sake, I know you were already on Kat, and I just like, for member reimbursement, everyone, the president gets extra money, but everybody else is allowed up to $125 per month, $75 for internet and phone cost. You do not need a receipt for that, so you should submit that every single month. And then childcare, you also don't need a receipt for, you just need the information of the childcare per person, so you could do up to $50 for that, so, because it's, you could do more, but then it would be less for you can only do up to 125, right? So between the two,
Yeah.
they can add up to 125, but you should submit a minimum of $75 every single month. And do it monthly so that we have a better sense of how much money we actually have. And there are 2 forms that you need to fill out. I think Katina was starting to share that, right? I drafted an email last summer, I think, that I shared with folks that I can find what kind of expensive.
Yeah, and I'll share that around again. But yeah, I mean, a very easy way to do it is what Jonathan just said, like, just always putting a certain amount in for phone and internet, and then the remainder towards childcare, or if you, need to spend money to get here, whatever it is. Just make it a routine. I email every member every month to remind you to do this. Please, 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 please do it every month. It always happens that there's a huge batch at the end. And the smaller we can make that batch, the quicker people will get their money, because it's not just our office that has a big backlog, it's everybody in the district, it's everybody in the city coming up against the end of the fiscal year. And so I think this year, Pat, you and I can talk about like what policies make sense. Last year, Angelica was very strict about having a cutoff line for all of the reimbursements from July through like May, and then only that last one was meant to come in at the end. I think I'd like to even cut that in half so that we have July through December. And if you don't submit during that time, that money is no longer available. And then second half of the year, so that at least we've got like the first half of the year.
Yeah, and if people aren't doing this already, there's digital, the forms are digital. So what I do every month is literally, I just make a copy of, I duplicate it, right? So I just make a copy of the previous month's form. I just change the date on it, and then I'm done. And I just resubmit it. Like it takes all of 45 seconds, right? Unless the month is different and I had childcare or whatever and I had to add that. But it should be that quick if you just do the file, make a copy, and then just change the dates on it.
Yeah. So getting back to Ken's question about what some of the expenditure policies are. The CEC's funds outside of what we're using for meeting expenses and member reimbursements is meant to be things that support the district as a whole. So we cannot, for instance, give money, my kids go to PS10 and MS88. We could not give a bunch of money to PS10 for their annual school fund, because that's not serving all families in the district. That's one school. That's definitely not. What we tried to support last year and was tricky, but I think it's doable. We just have to be very careful about it. Is if there is a parent organization from within the district that could be affiliated with the school or not, they're hosting an event that's open to kids and families from throughout the district. We can support that event. So things like the propaganda party that the parents of gender expensive kids put together last year. The ideas for like a district-wide baby shower, which I thought was really lovely. Something like that would in theory be something that we can support. What is difficult is some of the thresholds of expenditure and what's required at certain dollars. So first of all, to pay somebody, they need to be a vendor within the DOE system. Unless it's, materials that we can buy with a credit card, then we can use the P card. But if we need to pay a person, they have to be a vendor. And if the amount goes above something, 3,000, lower than that?
No. I'd have to look, it's lower than that.
It's lower than that, right? If the amount goes above something, then we have to put it out to bid, and we have to get different vendor bids.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's not $250? Yeah. Oh.
Oh, it's only $250?
Yeah.
And that is not really $250 if you're paying someone to run something. So that's the piece where things are really difficult, is when we run into those issues. Something I'd be interested in talking to Rafael about is whether there would be a way for us to transfer those funds to the district and have the district disperse the funds so that we could still support the same event, but we're not the ones actually writing the check.
Put the bureaucracy on that.
Correct.
I don't think it just takes a lot of pre-planning.
Yeah. And a lot of careful language.
sometimes vendors can give you the companies to go to for the other bids up front, you know, so it's like when you're using a vendor saying something like, well, can you get, you know, who else can I get bids from? Because the vendor might know Angelica's company's gonna charge more anyway, you know? So I thought Angelica J was doing something, but I know at the end of the year, we wanted to do something. But like I said, it's just a matter of starting the year, knowing what you're gonna do, and it's possible. But I think we used a lot of money. That was good.
I was checking the past budgets and we had the least amount that we gave back in the last 5 years.
Yeah, that's great.
I feel like there might be some money that's double counted on this.
Oh, yeah.
Because the 9,000 is added.
Is added,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think we're closer to 16,000 than what we actually spent donations.
We're giving back, we gave back 16,000?
No, we
Oh.
spent 16, so we gave back 9.
I mean, that's great, because it was 19,000 the year before.
Yeah, no, this is good.
And 17,000, so we.
So we did better.
We did
Yeah,
great,
we are doing better.
yeah, we're headed in the right direction.
Right direction.
Spending money.
You know, you never wanna give back the money.
Yeah.
Like, reach the people.
It's gonna be hard for me to like, well, not hard, but I guess a moment, because for us, it's more just like, we're trying to save more money as possible, like, as a PTA.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I get
It's
it,
a
but,
trip.
yeah.
I'm trying to know that stage.
Yeah, we gave back.
Mom gives you an
19,000.
allowance, you spend it.
The year
That's the
before,
way to think about it.
17,000.
Not here, though, but if you
Wow.
want to save.
But we're getting an allowance, that's what I see it as.
This is the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're heading back in the right direction.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's kind of like the big picture of like where and how we can spend money, but really the big things are member reimbursements, paying for our meetings, legislative breakfast. We won't have a chancellor town hall this year, those are every 2 years. And then just stuff that we need for, you know, for the office, software and keep the website up and running. Angelica J has been trying to figure out a better email distribution system for us, which could cost a little bit of money, but I think, I mean, we can afford to do it, so I would love to use the money to do it right. So that people can subscribe and unsubscribe if they want to, without me having to copy and paste things in so just kind of high level things about like what's changing. I'm proposing that we reduce the P card line a little bit because we just didn't use it all. Increase member reimbursements by a solid amount. Reduce technology a little because we just haven't been spending it all.
That's the only one I was a little concerned about reducing, because when you need it, and they're very specific about the line you need to use for technology.
Yeah, this is true. I think the thing that makes me feel a little more comfortable about it is that we can react, right? And so if your computer breaks and we need a new one, yes, we would want to be doing that like very quickly, but also I don't know, it's like an on-off kind of thing. Like it's not like we'll be spending little bits that could surpass all. It's all kind of all in the
Right.
And we could reallocate up to February, right, for that, so.
Yeah. And then
Just
after
don't,
that,
hope it doesn't break in March.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
yeah. No, nobody's allowed to need anything for March. But yeah, the rest of the changes are not very significant. Office supplies is a little bit lower, but Shanice, again, if there are things that we needed, we could bump that up very easily. You haven't been using your reimbursements, Shanice, I know those are actually like, they make it difficult for you to use. I feel like you should get a reimbursement for pain and suffering for how you have to use the new box system.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
District-wide events, keeping it roughly the same, which is still a generous amount. I will be very happy if we're able to spend it. Some of the amount that's in that expenditures line is actually member reimbursements that got reallocated to that line like every year. So we didn't actually spend it.
Okay.
And same thing with family and student events. There's some funds that will be allocated there, but I still think that there's some that are gonna. It's never been totally clear to me what the difference is between district-wide family student events and family student events. I think that the family student events are things that we as a CEC ourselves are putting together, which is harder than providing money for something that's already being put together in the district with open.
I'm sure it's written somewhere, like, what is there? That's the CEC and. But it can like cross over, because it's at Linda's discretion, you know, if we explain it to her and we wanna give money from that line to the district. So she'll give the green light.
Oh, okay. What is an example, it's of that line nine, the family student events versus the district-wide vendors?
Yeah.
Just in this past year.
Right, so, district-wide family student events would be like the project propaganda party, or like one year we gave money directly to D15. For they have like that family day in the park on one of the kids' days off.
Oh, yeah, art showcase, like we give.
For the art showcase.
Sponsor them with food, so they order a lot of food.
Yeah.
And.
Whereas a CEC family student event would be, like, we had talked about doing like a literacy event that we would have.
Like backpacks.
Yeah, although even there, we're often partnering. Well, I guess that's like, that's not really an event. I don't know where that.
Yeah, that would be considered
An event. So that.
was a gathering people. It's different than just distributed into school.
Right, yeah, that's. To me, there's like a definite bandwidth question with what we're able to organize event-wise. Angelica J is not here, but she's been a huge champion of like finding good events and ways for us to move forward. And I think she's maybe talked with you a little bit about getting involved in that capacity too. And so, you know, I think from my perspective, the more of those budget lines that we can spend about. So anything that we can be supporting, like, let's try and we'll see how far we go with it.
All right, and just as we speaking at the event, I was wondering, would we be all interested or are we allowed to do like cabling, like at events, like district events, or like events are being put by the community?
So funny that you should ask, because yes, and actually the Center for Family Life in Sunset Park just invited us to table at an event that they have coming up September 3rd and 4th. And we haven't done much of that in the past, but especially when we've got an invitation from a community partner, I think it's great to just to be there and be there.
And then how many events as a CEC are we capable, because it's a lot of work, yeah. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we have capacity for doing it. And then when we do it, it's executed effectively where, you know, all hands are on deck. It wouldn't be fair to just one member to take this. It's a lot that goes into it, logistically. So how many of us are thinking about, like 2, 3, and then just making them?
Yeah, I mean, this is where I think like the more that we can support events that others are executing, the better. The legislative breakfast is our big one, that requires a lot, because there's so much calling and coordinating with the electeds and all of that. Plus, like, all of the food and event planning pieces of it. And so, like, that makes me feel excited we're thinking about it. It energizes people like Angelica J, which is amazing. And so if there are folks to whom that feels energizing and exciting, we can do more. if it feels like herding cats and dragging people into, you know, to get things done, then we really can't. So I think it's an open question, how many may feel innocent, you know, able and enthusiastic. Right.
Yeah, can we dedicate time during our business meeting on this to talk strategically about
That'd be great.
events that we might want to do? Because I think that if we can identify early one or two events in addition to the legislative breakfast, and who wants to be a part of that plan, and what potential costs might be, that could be, you know, a sub or, you know.
That's the budget that we have for the legislative breakfast.
Oh, Shanice, do you know offhand what was the cost?
Yeah, how many percent something, you know, for this one, yeah. So there's a conversation.
We've been able to get a lot of the food that most.
That's a good one.
It is. A former CEC member's ex used to work at Chobani. Yeah.
Still
And
working.
still, yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, the other thing to keep in mind too is now have our working.
Right.
So that's taking a lot of, like Kim, and Kara, and Angelica J, and Jonathan, and others have spending a lot of their time with that, and that takes a lot of coordinating and extra time, so
I think it would maybe be the people who are not, right, so like, people who are not
yeah.
doing the working group work, maybe they could take eventually.
Yeah. Well, and on the flip side, if there's something that bubbles up from within a working group,
A work
right?
group, they work on.
Because if it's like something to knowledge base or having an
Right.
employee, something that working group.
They can help them.
Access to,
Yeah.
they can definitely have something just by their.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I think there's a lot more to talk about with the budget, and I think that we, to be able to make some thoughtful decisions about.
I just want to hear.
Yeah.
We can sweat for a little bit.
You know what, Jonathan, you're absolutely right.
Sorry, I didn't do it sooner.
No, I feel like many of us have soft voices too.
What?
It was in the back of your head.
Thank you. Oh, so much better. So, yeah, I think that there are likely some shifts that we'll want to make, but I would, I think, be inclined to go ahead and vote on the draft budget as we have it now, and then plan on amending it once we have a clearer plan about events.
Yeah, my only suggestion is to put it on the September or October agenda, like what events
Yes.
do we want to happen
Okay.
for the year so that you can kind of
Yeah, so we
allocate.
plan from the beginning. I agree.
Yeah, we kind of jumped in this year.
Yeah, I think August, because you know, if we decide there's something we want to do early in the school year.
Yeah.
It'll.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so that is a good idea.
Okay.
But I second voting on the proposed
Mhm.
budget.
Okay. Great. How do we have to do this one? Hands or roll call?
I think roll call.
Okay.
Councilmember Anna Maria Aguilar,
Approved.
Councilmember Angelica Cesario, yes. Councilmember Jonathan Davis,
Yes.
Councilmember Ken Eby,
Yes. That worked though.
Councilmember Catherine McKenzie,
Yes.
Councilmember Katina Rogers.
Yes.
Councilmember Kim Wanless,
Yes.
Councilmember Ching Sha Zhu,
Approved.
Councilmember Kara Swirling Muller.
Yes.
Great. Thanks, everybody. I hope you applause for all the things we're. We need some gold star stickers.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a draft budget, which it still takes some time for the money to come into the systems for us to be able to use, but it's one step closer.
Yes.
All right, next step is a calendar. So it's linked in the agenda, but maybe Shanice, could you put this up there as well?
Yeah.
And there's on the tabs at the bottom, there's one that says clean calendar, and
Yeah.
that one's easier to read.
Yeah.
So this is pretty straightforward. It takes into consideration all of the school breaks and days off. if there is anything that I am overlooking, if there is a religious holiday that may not be a day off that I didn't take into consideration, if there is something that, and anyway, if there's anything that makes one of these meetings not feel like it's gonna be feasible for the community, please let me know and we can change it. I am suggesting Friday, January 22nd for our legislative breakfast, which I need to check with the borough president's office and with the legislative calendar, that part we won't have until later, but it's around the same time that we've done it in years past. And this will typically be like the second, sometimes the third Tuesday of the month.
The only thing I noticed, and I
Mhm.
only noticed this because it's my anniversary,
Mhm.
so it's like I probably won't make that.
Mhm.
But June 15th is actually the third Tuesday,
Okay.
and I feel like we usually do the second
second
Tuesday.
Mhm.
So the 8th would make more sense. If we're trying to stick with the
Yeah.
consistency of. And I
Yeah.
don't know if that conflicts with a holiday.
It is a
Oh.
holiday. that's
Okay.
why. Very, very.
Am I looking at the wrong thing? Yeah.
Is it,
Oh, I don't have it on the
the
calendar.
8th is a clerical day.
The other thing I
Oh, yeah.
noticed for October, that Tuesday, the 13th.
Oops. Thank you. The other things about this calendar, so we're planning to mostly meet here. We're thinking that we'll choose a school, one in the fall and one in the spring, for more of a community-based meeting. We'll need to talk about how to select those. Yeah, we never get a lot of people, and it's kind of like hard for the school. They have to have staff that stays, and it's hard for us, it's hard for Shanice. It's just a little easier to kind of have a home base, I think. I don't think we're sacrificing much by having it here, and I think it simplifies a handful of things, so. But it will be nice to get into the community a couple of times, and we can think about like how we want to select those schools. Maybe there's something that our principal wants to show for this. And there are a couple of topics that I know already will come up during the year. So the Office of District Planning, they want to go through their annual data summary review for the district with us, which will align well with what we were talking about as far as class size reduction and stuff tonight. But they'll be at our August meeting. Soon after that, we'll have to start thinking about school walkthroughs and SCA needs. I just recently learned that our Brooklyn liaison, Tamar, is stepping down, and it's not clear to me who's doing
I don't think
that.
they know yet.
So that's a little tricky. Anyway, so SCA things we're not even gonna talk about tonight. I think it worked well to have the Brooklyn North High Schools come in just a couple times during the year, to have UAC come once in the fall, once in the winter, and once in the spring. So if that looks okay to everybody, I would propose we vote to approve this, and obviously we can change things if we need to.
Should we have a target date for identifying the schools for the fall and the spring?
Yeah. I mean, should we try to, like, the August meeting? Should we try
I
to
think
figure that
probably
out?
so we can go into the school year.
Yeah.
One thing I know we had talked about in the past was like 4, 5, 6 and all their traffic
Yeah.
safety issues, and we had talked about maybe inviting some community members to one of our meetings,
Mhm.
like discuss it, so I don't know
Mhm.
if that's something we wanna plan out maybe in August, or
Mhm.
do we wanna invite school community members if there are like pressing issues to any meeting?
Yeah, to have some sort of themed meetings where
Yeah.
we can let parents know what we're gonna be talking about. Mhm.
Like that, and that should, I mean, ideally, that's coming from working groups too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it can be like, hey,
Have a
working group-
technology meeting, have a
Right.
transportation meeting. Yeah,
Right.
it's a good idea.
That could be like, I guess, safety would be what, maybe operation.
Operation.
Infrastructure. That would be- and it could-
Well, we'll have to talk about that one.
Right, because that
Right.
wasn't happening.
Right. Yeah.
No, definitely isn't.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, I'm making some notes for things that we should discuss at or before the August meeting. So themed meetings, events that we want to do for the year, and school locations for so far. I would move that we vote to approve the calendar.
Second. All right, Anna Maria Aguilar.
Yes.
Angelica Cesario, yes. Jonathan Davis.
Approved.
Ken Eby.
Approved.
Catherine McKenzie.
Approved.
Katina Rogers.
Yeah.
Kim Wanless.
Yes.
Ching Sha Zhu.
Approved.
Sarah Zwirling Moeller.
Yes.
And one of her kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agrees.
Great. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to talk about is the liaisons list. So, let me get the documents. All right. There's always.
I think it's the wrong line. Oh, no, it's right.
It's the right line?
Yeah.
I really don't like the format of this chart. I think it really contributes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Let me just drop in a link to the other format. I'll drop a link to the other format into the agenda as well. So, for liaison schools, and I think you started after we had done the SCA walkthroughs, but you still had a chance to connect with your liaison schools. Kat, to give you some background, there are like 40 some schools in the district, and we spread those among the group so that every school has a point of contact on the CEC that they know they can come to if there are questions. Some schools are in close communication with their CEC liaison, some really are not, and you can't force it if they're not. At minimum, we asked CEC members to have one walkthrough of the school in the fall. We'll give a lot more information about that later on, but also to make yourself available to attend an SLT meeting or a PTA meeting if they would like you to be there. Not to go to all of them, and it's kind of up to you how proactive you want to be about participating in those types of meetings, but especially if you know that a school is facing some challenges of some type, it can be really helpful to go and hear from the parents as well as from school leadership. I think, so rules around school liaisons, you cannot be a liaison at a school where you have a child in attendance. So like for me, I can't be a liaison at PS 10 or at MS 88. And if you have other conflicts of interest with the school, I think it's sort of better not to. They just want to make sure that a school isn't getting like special favors because of who the liaison is. I think for returning members, we can, unless there are reasons that you feel like you want or need to switch, I think we can keep a lot of the same liaison schools the same so that you can keep building those rapport. I wanted to float an idea because one of the things that I felt was a gap last year is the D75 programs. Last year we tried to distribute these among the members. I don't know how others felt, but the D75 schools that were in my grouping, I had little to no contact with them, despite trying, but like, I mean, I sort of get it from their point of view too, that like they're under a different superintendency, they have they're affiliated with other D75 programs under a different principal, a different superintendency, and a different CEC as well, that to have to connect with this other CEC, I think maybe sometimes it felt like more work instead of something that was supportive.
Just to the point of knowledge, the D75 sites that are in District 15 are just that, sites for a
Correct.
larger school. So the D15 site may be one of 6 that 721K
Right.
has.
Yeah,
That's the other factor.
Right, and some of those may be located geographically within D15, and some of those sites are elsewhere, yeah.
So it's best to get in contact with the assistant principal for the site.
Okay, that's helpful.
Or if you want to go directly to the principal, fine, but realize that the principal most likely is not at that site.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's kind of where we went wrong, is we tried to to have someone be the liaison at the D15 school and a D75 program that was cited at that school. And I don't know that that's actually the logical pairing. What I'm wondering if it might work well to try is to have one person who is a dedicated D75 program liaison, who connects with the D75 programs, maybe builds a relationship with the citywide council on special education, to build some advocacy and relationship there. And some of the programs, again, there may not be a strong rapport that gets built. But I think that having a little bit more of that kind of grounded knowledge of what the D75 programs collectively are experiencing and need, maybe it would be more effective than each of us taking one or two programs. So I wanted to float how that felt. And similarly, as we have more and more standalone early childhood education sites, pre-K and pre-Ks, I wondered about maybe one person taking those instead of kind of spreading them around. Those are kind of a different case because it's like 5 of them under one principal and then like one K280. But so yeah, I wanted to see how that lands with folks.
I support it. That makes sense.
You look not sure.
I feel like it's best to do the location, the building. Because if you're in the building for, I'm gonna take, where is this one located? Okay, 456 has D75 753. If you're going to visit 456, you can email the principal and CC the assistant principal. That's the key, because Ms. Pierre is not gonna really pay attention, but her AP will, because they're only gonna see you about co-location issues or building issues, because they're located in your site. They're not gonna see you about curriculum issues. They're not gonna see you about student issues. They're not gonna, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it is gonna be about the site. Because their student issues, they go to their district about it.
Yeah.
If it didn't work, I think maybe try the strategy of asking for the AT when you're in the building at 456. Say, hey, who's in charge of the D75? Not asking for the principal. I don't think it's out of protocol. Maybe you have already emailed the principal, but you just make a step over to the assistant principal at the site. Because there's always gonna be an AP at the site.
Yeah, I mean, I agree and I don't, like,
Okay.
because I've navigated that with Star Academy that's co-located with BHS. And in 3 years, I've been able to communicate with Star Academy once, and it just happened to be because they're in like 4 different locations. And so the principal there is not there often, and she just so happened to walk by when I was in the meeting with the BHS principal. And it's like, hey, and then like we connected,
But that's my point.
no, and I get that, but I'm also wondering, like, if there's one person who's just dedicated to being the D75 liaison, maybe we can, they can coordinate with somebody from D75 to be like, hey, these are my schools, can you connect me with all of, it's just like, that's your focus. It may be easier, and it doesn't feel like, I just hate the fact that for me, it feels like it's this impossible extension of what I'm trying to do, and the communication is really challenging, and it's because we're not a priority, right? We're not a priority.
That's what I want to say. Don't feel badly because you're not a priority to them.
Right.
They're located in District 15, but they're not a District 15 school.
Right, but they're also low, like for a lot of these schools, they're in 15, they're in 13, they're in like, because they've got like 4 different locations.
Right.
And only one of them is in 15, and so it's just tricky because it's.
So like Barbara Tremblay, by the way, she retired, so that's gonna be a different person. But that person has 7 sites. And there's always, somebody is always gonna be at her site. You know what I'm saying? For AP is always gonna be there.
Right.
So you're better off dropping by to see the AP instead of trying to see the principal.
Yeah.
Once you follow the protocol of emailing the principal and letting them know that you're going to visit the site on this day, you just, yeah.
I'm just thinking to hearing you both speak, I almost feel like we should take a step back and kind of reflect on, well, really, what is our role exactly with these D75 schools, and what should our goal be? What do we want to accomplish? Because I think that's a good point, what you're making, like really, maybe their primary concern is really just about the site itself. Is that what our focus should be? And should we be communicating that to them? Like, hey, this is exactly how we can support you, and because maybe there's something missing in the messaging, and what support do they need from us, if any? Because it seems like that there's a disconnect there.
I just wanted to add to that, with these 75 schools, even trying to connect with parents, I mean, it's somewhere where we need to build trust as well, right? And it needs someone that is knowledgeable, I feel. So like Angelica mentioned, is pretty much discussing our role in a D75, and if we're there to support the parents and build that connection with the parents, and maybe through there connecting with the schools, right? Like bringing the parents to maybe engage with us in conversation and what's their concerns are, and then we can therefore maybe have more of a voice.
Yeah. Sorry.
And that makes sense,
Yeah, no, it makes sense, and I think especially what you're saying about building trust, especially given that, you know, many of the families who have kids in D75 programs, like likely it's not, they've been drifted out of it, right? Like they've been trying to get services for their kid. I think there's a lot that's challenging, right? And so I think building trust is really important. At the same time, I think, you know, what you were saying, Kim, about curriculum, social, emotional stuff, like all of that that's happening in the D75 space. It's not gonna come through D15. So I think I agree with Angelica that maybe it would be good for us to like talk to some other CECs and see how they connect with their D75 programs in their geographic districts, because I actually don't know. And maybe the liaison role looks different for D75 schools because we have a different relationship and a different set of needs we can address.
Yeah, I think the expectations need to be shifted.
I just felt like I was failing constantly.
No, I don't,
Is this issue in some way connected to the issue of having the challenge of getting a D75
Yes.
council member
Yes.
on our council?
Because if you were a D75 parent, why would
you be here? Right.
If anything, you'd want to be on the citywide council for special ed, you know?
That's right. I think it would be beneficial to understand what the other CECs are doing, what they're seeing with this particular issue.
Yeah.
And it may actually be worth, if we see some form of a common issue, proposing a different structure, a different model for addressing the needs of D75, up to the to the Department of Education, because it's obviously imperative that these parents have representation. Are they getting representation somewhere? Do they have a connection, a voice that is heard somewhere, if it's not through the CECs?
Yeah. And
is this duplicative, or is it just a gap
right
that's not being fulfilled?
And I think it's probably both, because I know like Christy Angel, who's the head of the citywide council, is like one of the fiercest advocates I've met. She's amazing, you know, so there is that space, but there's a weird disconnect with community composition.
I really just have more of a practical question. A lot of what we do during the school visits is also like thinking about what recommendations we make to the SBA. Do we have that same obligation with the D75 schools?
Well, just the ones that are co-located.
Right,
Yeah, it's because they're in the same building.
yeah.
So then that's something concrete that they're missing, right?
Right.
That advocacy to the SBA.
Unless it's also coming, like, I don't know if they have people who do site visits through the citywide council, for instance. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I can, Ken, I can link you with the person at 456. So.
You're gonna write the ECC, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll write to the ECC and see what other councils' experiences have been, and maybe we just hold off. I think it's okay. We should try to get liaison schools pinned down in August.
Yeah.
Before the school year starts, but I don't think we need them tonight, you know?
Kat, I did add your name to the one school that currently didn't have anybody, because it was added on one document, which is PS 230, which is where my kids go. It's a great school.
That's, I was just looking at them actually, and that was one of my questions is like, because it says 25, 26, do they change because of this? But that's what we're discussing, right?
So I think the most likely people will keep the schools that they had, but then you will take over gaps that existed as long as geographically it makes sense. Like you want, you know, if we have to do some shifting to make it easier for people to be able to coordinate.
That is so.
Yeah.
I just want to add one more thing. And the push for the assistant principal to be contacted.
Yeah.
Because they act as principals for their sites.
Yeah.
So
That's a really good.
No, it's a great point.
Yeah, so if either you're emailing the principal, CCing the assistant, or just, you know, email both separately, but I think the connection will be better once you reach out to the assistant.
I really appreciate that.
Were you D75 principal? Or no?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You were.
I don't wanna.
There's also that other pre-K that's not D75, that doesn't have anyone assigned. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Which pre-K?
The
7, 6, 7. The little Brooklyn pre-K.
that has all those sites.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of Basil's,
Oh,
and
I know I
I
have.
just feel like they've gotten kind of, they've fallen through the cracks a little bit too, and they have a new site
Oh, I see.
this year relative to
I have
last
it.
year.
Somebody has to take the Bishop Ford building one.
Yeah, so,
K280.
okay, so let me put some more thought into this and reach out more broadly about the D75 question. Sorry, we'll be out of here shortly.
We're wrapped, yeah. We appreciate you.
All right.
Sneakers screeching.
Yeah.
This is what happens when we.
Okay, yeah, well, I think we've got a lot done.
Yeah.
So the precinct pool.
I think let's figure it out next. Yeah. There's some other stuff that I wanted to mention, but I'll just send it either on WhatsApp or on email. One thing that I would really love to do at the August meeting too is maybe think about something like a group charter that we want to have for ourselves, something that's not as formal as the bylaws, but that just lays out like how we want to show up for each other, how we want to commit to working together. Just things like where and how we communicate and how we agree to follow through and let people know do something. So, anyway, all that for August. I propose that we. Yeah, Kim, any last words?
Yes, this is my last meeting. That's my last word. Some of you I was able to contact and let you know, but I'm sorry, I didn't let you know ahead of time. But yeah, I'm traveling a little bit, so I won't be in the city hopefully after September. So But I'll be around until then. I probably will be calling you, Anna.
Thanks.
I'll put in my letter. You can take me off the emails.
But you have to
But I
stay,
need to let the working group know, because I haven't let them know. So once I let them know, then I'll send you a letter for sure.
but you have to stay in the chat to send us pictures. or something.
That's what Kara said. She's like, no, you got this.
It's been a pleasure working. with you.
Yes.
Yeah,
For
I'm
everything.
so excited for everything.
Jealous.
That's where
Yeah. It's okay to be jealous, but you can come along. Too.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
I was just trying to think of this, and obviously with Kim
Mhm.
leaving, we're gonna miss you.
Thank
We're gonna
you.
miss you and really appreciate your dedication. I was gonna move to take a selfie of this, since this is the last meeting.
I second.
Okay.
You look
Yeah.
at the snapshot.
Can I try this way and then I'll-
Superimpose Kara after.
Good work?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, boys, Bettina, I can barely see you.
Fine.
Okay.
Yeah, move to adjourn.
Second.
Thanks, everybody. That was a really good first meeting. Thank you, everybody who joined us online. Thank you, interpreters. Thank you, Kara, for being with us while you're probably on vacation.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
And Shanice,
Okay.
Shanice, there was a parent on here who had a more timely concern. I just wrote saying that this meeting, we just unfortunately are out of time, but I told her to email you.
Okay.
Just forward it to us and we'll.
Okay. Yeah.